Hello and welcome to the Shea Hates Everything Podcast, where we talk about video games, movies, comics, and other shit that matters. My name is Shea, and today I hate feeling obligated to spend Christmas money on bills.
And my name is Kyle, and today I hate how my procrastination stops me from being creative.
So before we jump into stuff, I almost made my hate of today something about just the weather and winter in general.
Yeah.
So apologies in advance. I know my voice, and part of it's because we're recording in the morning, but my voice is lower than normal and raspier than normal, and maybe it's a little sexier than normal, but it also sucks more than normal because like I have a constant need to cough and like I've got some congestion, and I'm not sick. It's just that it's winter and it's freezing cold. Has it been affecting you?
Not like voice and health wise, but it has been below zero the past week. So we're supposed to come back from break this week, and we're supposed to work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Tuesday was canceled because it was too cold. Wednesday and Thursday were 2-hour delays, and then Friday was also canceled because it was too cold.
Wow.
And every time I've started my car, with the exception of once this week, I've had to jump it with my jump pack.
Because it's terrible.
Yeah. I mean, I have an old battery. It's a problem for me every winter. So I know that going in. But I'm going to say the air compressor / jump pack / flashlight / charger thing that I bought was like the best $80 I've ever spent.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, when you first bought it, I was like, for real, Kyle, you're spending money on this? But it sounds like you're getting use out of it.
Oh, yeah, and I knew I would.
Yeah.
So because like my back left tire was flat for the longest time, like it had a hole in it. And so I was like pumping air into it every day to like before I would drive every time, I'd pump air into it for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And now every time I want to drive, I have to jump start the car.
Jeez. It makes me feel like a wuss. It's been like in the teens most mornings here, and I'm like, that is way too cold. But I know Dad sends us texts like daily of the weather in Indianapolis, and it's a lot of times in the negatives, and that sounds awful.
Yeah, there were a couple days this week where it was like 1 or 2 degrees, but with wind chill, It felt like -11 or -14, which is pretty crazy.
It's like I appreciate my commute most times, and I still do, but when I drive to work, my commute is short enough, like 10-15 minutes max, that my car usually still isn't warm by the time I get to work.
You gotta heat the car up. You go out there 10 minutes before you leave, you start the car.
So here's the thing. So I live in an apartment complex. I don't live in a small suburban neighborhood with old people living in the houses next to me. I live in an apartment complex where there are some nefarious characters. Maybe not. Maybe nefarious is an exaggeration. We have some families and stuff. But there are lots of folks here that I wouldn't feel very comfortable leaving my unlocked running car in front of my apartment.
That's fair. That's true.
I did do it one morning. And I was panicking for like the 5 minutes that I was waiting. And so I was like, I can't do that again, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's all them kids and that weed. We have neighbors that smoke all, like in our apartment will reek of weed. It's terrible.
Is it legal in Georgia?
No.
Ugh.
Not
kids
yet,
going down on the dunk.
I know,
deeper
right?
Than the Titanic sunk.
I mean, I have no problems with that at all. I look forward to marijuana becoming legal so that the government can tax the shit out of it.
Yeah.
And hopefully it will cut down on crime and jail sentences and all that kind of stuff, which I guess is more of a positive. But
less tax money going to the jails to support the weed felons.
Yes,
and then
exactly.
More tax money coming in, which will be squandered somewhere, and we won't ever see it.
They'll find another way to waste it and find another way to put people in jail, I'm sure.
Right, yeah. They'll give Big Oil another bonus.
So I wanted to obviously clarify all that, but also wanted to dive in. So you say like creativity is a problem with your procrastination. Why? Why is that a problem?
So in our little show note document, I posted the picture of the world map I created for my D&D campaign. Mm-hmm. And like I want to work on my D&D campaign so badly, but I just don't.
Right.
I'm not sure why. Like if I were to sit down and actually work on it, I would have a lot of fun with it, and it would be really, I think, rewarding. But it's kind of like it's a daunting task, and so I'm kind of letting that push me away from it. Like my buddy Cody, he decided to, he had some friends that were pushing him to DM a 5th edition campaign, and so like he's been trying to learn the rules and stuff recently, and that's part of the whole formula that I wasn't really up on, because I've primarily just played 4th edition, and everything is very different between 4th and 5th edition, and so like through helping him figure out how everything works, I've been figuring out how everything works, which I think was my biggest hurdle in terms of like setting up encounters and knowing how to balance things for players. And I know there are guides and videos and stuff online of how to do that, but I just was never taking it upon myself to engage in any of that content because I was procrastinating. But like I have this really nice world map I've drawn up with all these locations, and I'm still not done adding locations. And I have text document after text document of stuff, but like none of the practicals of like how they would navigate the world and like what happens to them on a day-to-day basis. I have like the threads of the overarching story, and now like that I've had some time to step away from it, it's like, okay, maybe I don't want to tell that big story. Maybe I start with a smaller story that leads into something with more magnitude. So yeah, I'm just not entirely sure what I want to do with it. But I was, I was productive because my fiance Kara has been frustrated with my procrastination in terms of wedding planning. Because I kept telling her like, I'm gonna find the family crest and we're gonna do all this stuff with because it's gonna be a medieval Renaissance wedding.
Sure.
And I was like, I'll find the family crest and we'll do all this stuff with it. Well, there's no possible way for me to find our actual family crest because nobody in our family cares about that or has the wherewithal to figure out how any of that stuff works. So I found I found what I believe to be the Haggerty one, which was your and our father's mother's, our grandmother, family crest, which because they were Haggerty, and when they came over to the United States, they became Haverty, I believe.
I believe that's correct. It might be the reverse order.
That might be the reverse of that. But I think I found their family crest, and it was like it was an oak tree with nuts in it, with like 3 doves, and the doves are like a religious symbol, and the oak tree. I can't remember what the oak tree means, but it was nice. It just wasn't like what I wanted.
Okay.
And so I was like, I'll look up what the castle family crest is and kind of take that and then make my own thing. So I did that. And I put that picture in the document as well. So it's like a red burgundy color, which is like symbol for war or readiness for battle. And then it has the stripe going from the top left corner to the bottom right corner, and 3 castle towers, which just means like the castle family owned some form of fort or fortifications, or like, you know, again, readiness for battle. And
this is on the shield.
Yes, on the shield itself. And then there's like the traditional, you know, helmet up above, and then flanking the helmet, crossing behind the shield, I have big battle axes, again, for war, also looks cool. And then we have like kind of like a garland, leafy, kind of almost like an Olympic, you know, the Olympic wreath.
Sure.
It's kind of almost like that behind it. Don't know what it symbolizes, but it looks cool, so I put it behind there. So
basically you just created our family crest. Yeah. Because it looks cool.
Right. Which is, I mean,
so it has like, it has the red.
Nothing about our heritage, or and like it's extremely difficult to know about our heritage because several people in our family were adopted. Like, I'm just making my own, and it's gonna be cool.
No, that's fair. It's just I want you to describe it the way it truly is, where it's like, yeah, it's the maroon color with the white stripe diagonally because that looks cool, and then it has like the 3 towers symbolizing looking cool,
also
with like these crossed battle axes because those look cool.
Really cool. Yeah.
Like that needs to be the real description. You just did it because it looks cool. Don't pretend like, oh, this is because they owned land in the past.
But also that.
Sure. Okay. Fine.
Because
whatever.
We have a fort, like a castle, so the towers, and then like a readiness for battle, like a preparedness. You know, don't mess with me.
Yes, all of those are analogs to our current castle family.
Yeah,
we own land and we're ready for war. Those would be the 2 things I would use to describe our family. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's pretty much dead on. So I made the stinking crest so Kara can stop complaining about it.
I like it.
And yeah, I think it looks pretty cool. And her mom went and bought a bunch of bolts of fabric so where we're having the wedding is this farm ranch, and there are trees that go down the driveway that like flank the driveway. And so we're gonna have the banners with our crest on them. Like different color flags with the crest on them on all of the trees, kind of flanking the way down as you drive, which will be really cool. We'll find some other places to put them too. But yeah, and then you and Dad, I want to try and get you guys tabards with the crest on them, since and then I would like to have my oh crap, what is it called? My tassel, tasset. On my armor painted because it's a shield tasset, so I'd like to get it painted with the burgundy stripes and then the castle things.
With the 3 castles.
Yeah.
What about for Kara's? Like, I feel like
she said she doesn't want to worry about it.
Okay. Because I was gonna say, like, for a medieval style wedding, I would imagine that both families would be represented.
Well, and she and her family's going like more elven style.
Okay. So this is like a fantasy wedding. It's not like a medieval Renaissance wedding.
We're playing fast and loose with whatever we want to do.
Well, no, but this is a different sort of concept. They're going to have different sort of influences on like the style and the decor. I mean, if this is a knight marrying an elven woman, is very different.
Yeah. So like, there's going to be like a lot of steel and metal stuff, but also like a lot of moss wood and stuff too.
I like it.
So that seems to be. Because, like, that's what her mom's style really is that kind of fairy woodland stuff. So that's a lot of the things that she's been finding and picking out. And I don't mind it that much. I want to make sure that it doesn't stray too far in that direction.
It doesn't become too Lord of the Rings.
Right.
Yeah.
And Kara booked, oh, God. She just told me last night. It's a trio. It's a harp, a violin, and something else. It's a trio to play before the wedding, during the ceremony, and then shortly after the ceremony. Flute, violin, and harp. She just yelled at me.
Nice.
So, yeah, so we have that booked. We have a photographer booked, and we have a DJ booked for the reception. We just need to, apparently he needs to meet with us to like get a feel for us, which is fucking stupid.
Yeah, I think we did that too, but I
could just
I
text
don't
him
think
the
that
songs
I went, so maybe he just met with Kelly. Well, the way that we went about it, and it was just the company we used, so they just sent us like a list of every song that they have. Okay. And we could go through and check songs we definitely did not want to be played. So like every rap song was checked.
Sure.
And then we also picked ones of like, what songs do you absolutely want to be played? And those we did fewer because like we don't want to pick the whole set list. That's not our job. But they also had like a place where you could say, hey, if there's a specific song that isn't on this list that you really want, we can do that too. And so we did. There was a Dashboard song, I think, that they didn't have that we really wanted to use. Okay. Oh, it was for our first dance, the Dashboard Stolen song. And they didn't have that, but they went out and got it to use it for that. So maybe that's what why he wants to meet with you guys, is to figure out like your style and stuff. Because music is really important at a wedding.
Style.
But I think it's
styleless.
For me, the most important part was making sure they understood stuff we did not want to be played.
Yeah, and I can send that in a text. Piece. I don't have to meet with the weirdo.
Okay, all right.
I'm just lazy, Shea.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. Because it sounds like they're doing a good job. It doesn't sound like they're the ones with the issue here.
It's just extremely inconvenient for me, who doesn't want to go
to leave your house. I know, it sucks. It's the worst.
Yeah. So anyway, like before we jump into all the other stuff, I just closed, because we're recording this on the day before it goes up, presumably. I just closed out our little winter show that we were doing.
Yes, I was going to ask you about that.
Our Black
You were sending me
Box
some
Theater.
pictures.
Yeah. So we set up the stage, like we closed the main curtain, had the back curtain, and then we painted some of our flats black and then put them up on the sides, and then had platforms in the middle, and kind of did a thrust stage setup with all the seating on the stage.
Which, describe that for folks that don't know what a thrust stage is.
Yeah, so it's like the seats are in a horseshoe and the stage is in the middle of the horseshoe.
So it's not in the round. It's not like a square.
It's not a full round.
It's three sides of a square. So there are folks sitting literal on the side of the stage.
Right. And we didn't do auditions for the show. It was any kid who wanted to be in it could be in it. We initially had about 30 kids, which was giving me heart palpitations. But around 7 or 8 of them dropped out at one point or another. So we had 17 pieces, and we knocked it down to 12. 2 of them were pieces that I wrote. So those kids did not drop. So the ratio of the pieces I had written to the pieces I had not grew exponentially when those kids dropped, which made me feel a little weird. But I don't know, like the kids really liked those pieces. I guess they said they were their favorite, but that might just be them kissing my butt. They also, because they normally get me a gift every show. They get both the directors a gift for every show. And my one from the fall show had been on back order. And it is the hat I'm currently wearing, and it says, I can't, it's Tech Week, which... If only they knew how many times I've said that. So it was pretty perfect. It's
it's funny,
fun little gift. But yeah, in the show it went over really well. We were able to seat. I had 50 chairs out, and I was expecting like 30 friends and family, and then 20 others. We probably won't even fill the house with that. We'll probably get like 30 to 40 people per performance, because we did Friday night and Saturday night, and like. It was like feels like -7, so I was like, people aren't going to want to come out because of the weather. But so house opened at 6:30 and the show started at 7, and 6:38 rolled around on Friday night, and there were 3 people in the theater, and I was like, oh no, people aren't going to come. Like, these kids put all this work into it. I put all this damn work into it. No one's going to come. And then by 7 o'clock, we had to set out more chairs. We had to find space for more chairs. We had 53 people show up Friday, and then 51 showed up Saturday.
Cool.
So completely full house both nights. We had like just enough space.
Yeah.
So that was really, really neat. And we got a lot of really positive feedback from people, like, because nothing like that has been done at the school before.
Yeah, for sure.
And so we had a lot of really positive feedback, which made me feel good. So yeah, it went over really well, and we're gonna set strike on Monday or Tuesday. Maybe not Monday, because with any luck, school will be canceled again, because it's supposed to
nuts.
It's supposed to freezing rain and snow starting at like 1:30 or 2 a.m. On Monday. So if it's in a bad spot, they would probably cancel school. It's supposed to snow till like 1 p.m., which would be an hour before they let out, or an hour and a half before they let out. So.
I mean, just the fact that they would close school because it's too cold is crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, because they have kids that walk from the neighborhoods nearby, and they can't have those kids walking in sub-zero temperatures. I think that's that's the cutoff, is if it's below if it's negative, I think they can.
Yeah,
I think it's a state mandate too.
I get it. It's just like, I don't know. That seems like a pretty crazy reason to not have school.
Yeah.
Because yes, the kids having to walk there, that sucks. Like, that doesn't seem very safe. But how many kids are walking to school compared to kids that aren't? It's like less than 10%. I don't know. It just seems weird to me for them to close school like that. But Ohio closed school a lot for a lot of different reasons.
And I still get paid. So
yeah, man, that's the benefit of being on a salary too.
Well, no, I'm not. I'm not salaried. I'm hourly, but calamity days are part of the. Yeah, we get paid for calamity days.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's one benefit of like where I am working salary too. Because if weather's bad where they close the office, I'm still expected to work from home, but I get to stay at home.
Yeah.
And that's pretty nice.
It's hard for me to do my job at home.
Yeah, I would imagine. Have all the kids come over.
No.
It's like a babysitting.
No.
You got plenty of stuff in your house that they would love to play with.
Oy. Well, actually, one of my kids was in the show though. She
Oh, cool.
Yeah, she did a short little monologue, which I think people appreciated that we let her do that. I mean, she did what I figured she would do, and yeah, that's all I'll say about that.
All right, that's probably
she had a great time. She really loved it.
That's what matters.
Which is awesome. That's what I care
I mean,
about.
obviously, you want everybody to go out there and do good work, and you put all this effort in. But at the end of the day, it's high school kids doing theater, and they're only doing it because it's fun for them. So that's the goal, is for them to have fun.
Right. And she seemed like she had a blast. So
yeah, that's awesome.
I'm happy for that.
Well, cool. So I guess we can kind of dive into what we've been playing, watching, and reading lately. So first, looking at our show notes doc, it looks like you just bought a bunch of comics. So I want to hear about that first.
Yes, it's been a little while since I bought any of my comics. I bought like one or two here or there that like I really couldn't live without. But I realized it's been a while, and like I buy trades when they come out,
right?
Primarily. So I figured there were going to be a whole lot of things that I had missed out on. And there were. So volumes 5 and 6 of the ongoing Star Wars series, the reboot. I got those. I got Descender Volume 4, which is that sci-fi one about the androids that I've told you to read.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah. It had a little Mass Effect-y.
Right.
Saga Volume 8. Because Saga is one of the best ongoing comics currently. East of West Volume 7, not because I think East of West is really good, but because I'm 6 volumes in and I refuse
so now
to
you're in
give
it
up.
forever.
Yeah. There are good moments. And I like the world and like the character design.
It's sort of a Western thing.
Yeah, like kind of like Western fantasy, post-apocalyptic, futuristic, kind of a mishmash of a bunch of different things.
And just going, because for people that don't have all the context, we should probably give a little bit for these. Saga, I totally agree with you. Saga is one of the best comics that I've ever read. I love reading that. And I keep trying to get my wife to start reading it because I think she would enjoy it too. Despite, I mean, it's very sci-fi and fantasy as well. But I always describe it to her as like, it's Romeo and Juliet in space, and everyone murders everything.
And has sex with each other a lot.
Yeah, that's true, too. They have sex and murder everything.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It's pretty good. Although I would hazard to say you don't need to include the murder bit because you already mentioned Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, Shakespeare has a lot of
But
murder.
it's more like the star-crossed lovers.
Yes,
It's two people that are from different cultures that are at war with one another, and they have a child, and they're trying to run away from the war, etc. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Very, very funny, and obviously incredibly violent, but super heartfelt as well, because you get a lot of the growing up of the daughter character, from being a baby to a toddler, etc., and it's just really freaking good, man.
Yeah, and like the cast of characters is fantastic. I got Low Volume 4, which that one's about like the surface of the world is uninhabitable, and so there have been these like underwater societies for generations. So I got Volume 4 of that.
That one, I read the first trade. Did I borrow that from you?
I think
so. Or
did
I buy it? Okay, I might have borrowed it from you. I had a hard time getting into it. I really liked the concept, and maybe it was partially the art style was a little messy.
Yeah, it is.
Kind of was hard to follow. But I certainly I liked the concept, I think, more than I enjoyed actually reading it.
Yeah, they use a lot of similar color tones, and so it's kind of hard to pick things out a bit. Yeah, a lot of red and brown. I got Star Wars Poe Dameron Volume 2, and the Star Wars Darth Maul collected trade, because there was a mini series that came out recently of Darth Maul. It's like 5 or 6 issues, and this trade collects it. Kind of a one-shot thing. Walking Dead Volume 28.
And that's another one that you're just getting it because you feel like you have to now?
No, I still really enjoy Walking Dead comics.
Really?
I think they're still going really strong.
Cool.
And then is it Kirkman who does Walking Dead? Is that his name?
Yes.
He also wrote an ongoing comic called Outcast. He started it after The Walking Dead, and I have never read it, but I mean, I really like Walking Dead, so I want to check it out. So I got the first 2 books, which is like the first 24 issues of Outcast, and they're nice. They're hardbound, and I think they look really nice. So,
what's the concept of that?
It's not dissimilar to Walking Dead, but I think it's like society has broken down, but it's not like because of zombies. It's because of something else.
Well, that's pretty different than The Walking Dead, I would say.
Yeah, but it's a broken society thing.
Sure, it's like a semi-post-apocalypse kind of thing, just no zombies.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know that I would say apocalypse level, but like broken society.
Okay. I personally would qualify The Walking Dead as post-apocalypse.
Yeah. Because the zombie apocalypse happened.
You're right.
But yeah, I don't.
When like there's like 1% of humanity left, and the rest are zombies. I think that qualifies as an apocalypse level event.
Right. Yeah. I don't know that Outcast necessarily does.
Is that far?
Right.
Okay.
So I'm
cool.
Curious to see what's going on there. I still have trades 2 and 3 of Orchid to read, and I need to finish my giant 1,300-page book. And there is another book from that series that actually came out before the giant one, kind of like a bridging the gap piece.
Okay.
That's like a few hundred pages that I got that I need to read. Oh God, I don't know. I have so many. I have too many books. So many books.
You're inspiring me to get back to comics. Every time I go in my closet, I see my like stack of trades that I've bought over the past 6 months that I still haven't touched. Because like I think it's volume 8 of Saga that I have as well that I haven't read yet, and I have some Star Wars trades, a couple of Image things that I just picked up. One of them I think is called Black Magic or something like that just looked really cool. I don't even freaking know.
Yeah.
But I think it was like, oh, you know what? It was after my birthday. I had like extra money after my birthday in April of last year. And so I went to the comic book store and spent like $150 on trades.
That's what I spent.
And I've only read a couple of them. I have a bunch of Batman stuff. It sucks. I love comics, but because I'm always like one toe dipped in, I never really commit.
Right.
Which is good because otherwise I'll spend $800 to catch up.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I don't know, because I'm not fully immersed in comics anymore on a weekly basis, I look at my stack of comics and then I look at my stack of video games and I tend to go with the video games.
Right, yeah. And I tend to read when I'm like site managing and working.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have a good means of like where you can't do those other things, it's perfect for that.
Yeah, so I almost never read at home, which is a shame. I would like to more, but yeah, like you said, I'm always picking the video games.
Yeah.
So those are all the comics I bought.
Speaking of video games, we've both still been playing a lot of stuff. I guess I'll jump in with a couple quick hitters first. Yeah. So I put maybe like another 30 minutes into Nier since we talked last episode.
A whole 30 minutes.
And I know, exactly. Point being, I played it for like 30 minutes and I was like, you know what? I'm just not getting that much out of this, and there's other stuff I want to play, so I just kind of put that away. And I've been listening to the Giant Bomb Game of the Year podcasts, and I still have like, I just started day 4, so I still have a lot to listen to. But up till this point, they talk about Nier all the time, all these amazing, crazy moments, and the characters they love, the music, etc. And I want that. I haven't seen anything like that that's blown me away. We talked last episode about that one like robot orgy scene, which was certainly wacky, but it didn't blow me away like, oh, this is so crazy, the way that they describe a lot of those Nier moments. And it sounds like a lot of those crazy Nier moments happen in like 2nd, 3rd, 4th playthroughs, which that's how the game is designed for you to beat it multiple times. And subsequent playthroughs become shorter and you're only doing specific missions, etc. But I don't know. I'm not getting that much out of the combat. It's weird, but it's not super interesting to me at this point. The game is straight up fugly, and it's just, I don't know. It's not hitting me the way that I really want it to. So I might just say, sorry, Nier, I'll come back to you next year in the summer when I'm bored.
Right. I think Nier's a summer game for me.
Yeah.
I have too many other things that I want to be spending time with to force myself to play that.
Exactly. And that's how it feels. Like when I loaded it up, I felt like I was forcing myself to play it because I want to get to those crazy bits. But the game, I mean, I've looked online because I've been checking like how long it takes to beat a lot of these games so I can help use that to prioritize. And it's like the first playthrough of Nier can take like 20 hours. Plus you have like the second and third, which are like 6 to 8 hours. And then beyond that, it's a couple hours for each one. Like that's like a 40-hour game.
Yeah.
And I'm like 2 to 3 hours in and I'm not really having fun. I don't know that I can commit another couple hours in the hopes that it will grab me. And then I need to sink another 30 hours into it. That's just too much for me. So instead, I have been playing Pyre, which is very good. I'm not like over the moon for it. I'm not like crazy far into it yet either. I guess from a conceptual level. So it's made by Supergiant Games, who made Bastion and Transistor. I had never played Bastion like when it first came out. Transistor was their first game that I played. I really liked it, but it didn't blow me away. Like, I loved the visuals and the way they used the voice acting, and the combat was really interesting and unique. It didn't click with me until the late game, and then I had a lot of fun with it. But the story for me was like too, not weird, but like too, I couldn't get my hands around it. Like, I had a hard time following it and figuring out what it really was, because it felt more like a game of world building than an actual narrative. And so after that, I went and played Bastion, and I felt the exact same way. I loved the combat in it. I thought the characters were great. I loved the voiceover for the narrator, main character, God thing. But again, the story, I was like, I'm not sure what I'm doing here, what the point of all this is. All that to say, guess what? Pyre's the same way. So it looks amazing. It has this great hand-drawn kind of aesthetic that's very fluid. And there's not too much to it in terms of visuals, because you're either in the actual rights, which is like the combat scenarios, and it's basically like sports. Like, it's like a new sport that they invented. It's very basketball-ish, where you have 3 against 3. Only one person can move on each team at a time, and you kind of are trying to dunk the ball effectively into the other team's pyre. And so you can like pass it to your characters. You have a thing called an aura that you can use to banish guys from the other team, so they come back in a couple seconds. So it's very strategically focused. I've played through maybe 7 or 8 rights battles, and I haven't lost yet, but a lot of them have been very close. Okay. And so when they are close like that, it feels that like intense competition sports kind of mentality that's really exciting. All the stuff around the edges I'm less excited about. I like the characters, but just the story again is it's just not solid. It's like this smoky, gaseous story that I'm having trouble really getting. But I'm enjoying a lot of stuff about it. It's just not like, I'm not fully in love with it yet, but I am still pretty early on. It's like a 20-hour game, I think. Might be a little shorter than that, depending on how you go about things. But I'm a couple hours in, and I'm really enjoying it. I just haven't hit that point where I'm like fully in love with it. There's a system where you go through the rights and kind of make your way up the ranks, and then basically you get to the championship game. And you live in a place where everybody there is exiled from what's called the Commonwealth, which is like the quote-unquote real world. And I don't know much about the Commonwealth. My gut tells me that everything is not as it seems, and the reason people want to get to the Commonwealth, there's something missing there. Because for a lot of the characters, they don't really remember life before being exiled, so I think there's something going on there. But anyway, the goal is everybody wants to get back to the Commonwealth. And so through these rights, if your team wins in the championship game, one of your players gets to go back to the Commonwealth. He's unexiled. So I just escalated my first character last time I played. And like, it was a cool moment of like figuring out who I wanted to send back. Because it's like, I kind of don't want to send back the guys that I use most because I like their moveset, but by using them more, haven't they earned the right to go back to the Commonwealth, like from a humanitarian perspective? And then there are characters that I certainly identify more with than others, and it was like a cool moment of like, I'm playing God kind of. I'm getting to decide which of my team gets to go back to the life that they want. And it was a powerful moment. And so now I get to do that a bunch of other times, assuming I win, because the game continues. Even if you lose a match, really nothing changes. So I can lose in the championship, and then a player from the other team is the one that gets risen back to the Commonwealth. So there's like a whole thing there too, because there are a lot of, you play the same teams. There are like 6 or 7 different teams, and it seems like you play them over and over again. And there are a lot of characters on the other teams that I really like. And I'm like, dude, you deserve to go back to the Commonwealth too. So I can imagine a scenario where like I'm playing against a particular character that I'm like, oh, I think he deserves to go back. And maybe I'll lose the championship on purpose so that he gets to go. It's just like that part of it's really, really fascinating. So
I wonder if you could
I guess the more I'm talking about it, the more I'm liking the game, honestly.
I wonder if you could just intentionally lose every match and elevate all of the other teams up.
Well, there are enough characters on the other teams that like you couldn't do that and then have no one to play against, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Because I think if a guy on the other team, and I haven't seen this, so I'm assuming here, but if a guy on the other team was escalated back, there would just be a new person on their team, so that you're still facing 3 people. But
I wonder if the game has like a time limit, like a certain number of matches you go through, or if it's like you play until you've sent all your characters up.
I really don't know. I mean, I know in the story of the game is kind of the leader of your troop. He is trying to incite a revolution in the Commonwealth for like all these exiled people to fight back. And that's the main story. Nothing's really happened with that yet. He's still like planning it. So I don't know when the game ends. I don't know if that revolution happens or if it ends if I keep playing until all of my guys go back. I really have no idea. But I'm kind of more interested to learn about it now that I've talked through the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited to keep playing that. So what about you? What other what games have you been playing?
I picked up Persona 5 because they talked about it a little bit during the Game of the Year deliberations, and I've never really gotten into a Persona game before.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of really strong elements, but the cycle of the game is you have a host of characters that all together go into this other world, and they attack basically someone's mindset, and once they have done enough damage to this person's mindset and done certain things to make to like their warped desires, then that person can change in the real world and like atone for their crimes and like feel badly for what they've done. So like you're attacking in this other world these bad dudes and chicks and like changing who they are into like better people so that they then like turn themselves in and atone for what they've done. So you do that, and then you also are like a student in school, and you have like a life, and you're supposed to be spending your time like so you have to go to school certain days, and then after school, like, your time is yours to do with what you will. Like, you train in these other things that help you form more relationships with people, which affects how powerful these like spells you cast are, and things like that. So it all kind of directly feeds back into the gameplay. So you're always trying to decide what to do. So you always have something in your mind of like, okay, this is what I'm going to do this day. This is what I'm going to do this day. But like every other day, the game will like play a day for you. Like there's an event that happens that makes it so you can't do what you want to do. So it's impossible to plan anything.
Okay. Yeah.
And there are deadlines. Like it's like the first palace that you're assaulting of this guy. Like you have 30 days until he like goes to the school board and gets you expelled. So you have to like beat his palace and steal his treasure and affect his mind within the 30 days. So I was like, okay, I'll do this day. I'll see how far I can get, and then I'll have a few more days of prep. I'll jump back in, a few more days of prep, jump back in. But like there were like stretches of like 2 or 3 days where I couldn't accomplish anything. It was just going through events and these like long-winded dialogue segments of like barely character development or like things that are barely interesting. And so like that's really frustrating because like they at the beginning they're like, you're gonna have to choose what to do every day. I'm like, okay, well that's good. Like I would like to be able to craft my character how I want and like form these relationships how I want, but then they completely take that agency away from you more than half the time. And it's like you go to school and then you have enough time to do like 1, maybe 2 things depending on the day, and you don't know what the day is going to be like. You don't know what's going to happen, and it's frustrating. Like it's maddening because it's like, well, I need to craft these lockpicks because otherwise I can't open chests for rare loot in the palace. But every time I'm able to craft a lockpick, some stupid bullshit's happening, and I have like 5 days left on my timeline until this thing happens, and then so you jump in, and I almost failed the game because I jumped in and I got all the way to the end, and it didn't tell me I had to do this. I had to leave. Put out a calling card, and another day had to pass, and then another day had to pass for me to jump back in and finally finish it. And so it was 2 days before the end, and I jumped in, and it was like, okay, we have to put the calling card. So I jumped out, and time progressed itself there was 1 day left, and they did the calling card thing, and then there were no days left, and I jumped back in and finally beat it. But, like, what if I hadn't been able to beat it? I would have been fucked. Like,
So what happens then if you were unable to do that?
You lose.
Like you get a game over, basically?
Yeah, and then like you'd have to reload a save or something. But like, what if you don't have a good? It's
like
good
Majora's
save?
Mask.
Yeah, like what if you don't have time? Like what if you only have one save file and you don't have enough time to go back and like train? You don't have enough days to do that. Like,
right.
I don't know. It seems like it's set up in such a way that it should be very possible for you to fuck yourself because of information they don't give you. So that's been really frustrating. And also, all of the characters in the world, apart from your core crew, fucking assholes. Like, you walk down the street and, like, little speech bubble things of, like, snatches of conversation you pick up. And, like, ooh, what a weirdo. Like, that guy's weird. Like, isn't he that guy, that transfer student? Like, blah, blah, blah. It's everyone. And, like, all of the adults are assholes. They're all horrible people. And they set up nobody for you to actually like them, apart from the people in your team. And so it feels like the entire world is against you. Like, the guy you live with is a fuckface. He's such a dick all the time, gives you no latitude. And the whole premise of the game is there was a lady being assaulted on the street, and you step in and beat the guy up, but he's a politician, so he like ruins your life and you have to move. And then everyone treats you like you're this terrible, awful, violent person because this guy ruined your life. And then there was a cutscene where you bump into that guy again, and my character was like, he looks so familiar. Where was he from? Like, you wouldn't fucking remember the guy who ruined your damn life? Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Does he have amnesia?
No, he's just stupid. He's a stupid idiot. I don't know. I have so many problems with that game. It's very long-winded, and it takes you on these like half-an-hour sessions where you're like, okay, I have shit I need to do, and you're not letting me fucking do it. And it's like, so you get back like late at night, and you're like, okay, I want to make a coffee because that restores this stuff in the other world, and like, oh no, I can't make a coffee today because I have to go back to sleep. I want to train. No, you have to go to sleep. You don't have time for any of this stuff. It's like, well, then why let me walk around in the room if I can't do anything anyways?
Yeah.
It is maddening. There are elements that I really enjoy. I think the combat's a lot of fun. Like, when you're in... Sorry, I'm going to sneeze. Maybe. I'm getting too worked up.
There you go.
Oh, let it all
Bless
out.
You.
Let me time mark that. It's like the palaces that you go into are fascinating. Let's see, that was... Okay. And, like... I don't know. The combat's great. The exploration's great. Like, all of the game is dripping with style. It looks awesome, and they have actual animated cutscenes sprinkled throughout. Yeah, I don't know. There are so many good parts that it's such a shame that it backpedals on that player agency it promises you in the beginning so hard.
Well, and it sounds like the characters too, because maybe the characters in your squad are good, but I always hear like in Persona games, the cast of characters are like one of the big selling points.
Right. And like there are interesting characters, but right now they're all fucking assholes. And
that's too bad.
Yeah, it's a shame, and I'm sure like. Because as you go through and you do activities with these different characters, you're raising your relationship level with them. So I'm sure they like as the game goes on, they get more bearable. But like right now, like, I've been playing for 16 hours, and it's been 16 hours of, oh, this fucking weirdo, like, I can't believe he's here, like, bleh. Or like, you better not fuck up at school because you're out of here. Like, one misstep and you're gone. And it's like no one gives you any latitude ever. They're always in your face about everything. And it's so frustrating. It's like I've been playing the 5th Harry Potter book for 16 hours.
Yeah, I was just going to bring up, it sounds like reading the 5th Harry Potter book, where it's that like injustice, that sense of injustice that goes beyond being fun and just like ruins your experience. Yeah. Like there's that level that I felt like Umbridge crossed of like, I don't like reading this book. It's not just that it's frustrating and I can't wait to see Harry win. It's like, I legit don't want to read this book because of this chick.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's the same thing. Like, it's not, oh, they're giving me an obstacle to climb. It's, man, these people make me not want to live in this world and play this game. Yeah. And that's really a bummer.
And there's this girl who tried to commit suicide, and so she's in the hospital now because of all these events. And it's like been like a couple weeks in game time since that happened, and there are still people that are like, she was just doing it for attention. Like, she should have died. Like, it just like you walk by and there's some shitty thing someone says, and you're like, this world is awful.
I don't want to save this world.
Yeah, and like, oh man, and so, maybe I just found out that there's like this other area for like the general populace. So like there are these palaces that are like created in this other world when someone is like a really bad person, but then there's like a general other world where like people who aren't as bad but or maybe like did one shitty thing once and like you can change them and what they do and stuff. And so maybe it's like, I don't know if it's everyone's shitty so this other world exists, or this other world exists so everyone's shitty. I'm not sure if the connection is there, or like if that's what they're trying to say. I don't know, but like it doesn't make me feel good when I play it.
Yeah, for sure.
And like the game, has so much style and it looks awesome, and it's a blast to play the combat. But then it's like I step out of that other world into the real world, and it's like, man, this is worse than real life.
That's a bummer.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you need to play Persona 4, because I know a lot of people that love the Persona series were disappointed with 5 and still say 4 is like definitely the best game.
Yeah.
So if you're enjoying all the other stuff, the style and the combat and that kind of thing, it sounds like maybe you would still enjoy Persona 4.
Yeah, maybe I would. So 16 hours of that.
Are you going to keep playing it, do you think?
I think so, because Kara and I are playing it together. Like, she's watching and like telling me what I should do and like helping out and stuff. So we'll probably play a little more of it, but at a certain point, if things don't start looking up, holy hell, man, I can't. Yeah. I bought Project Zomboid on PC, which is like it's an isometric zombie survival game. Way too many systems. Like, I loaded it up and I did the tutorial, and like the UI is bad, the interface is bad, and there are like 5 million things you have to worry about, and it's like the direction your character is looking is the only direction you can see anything in, which for like a top-down isometric game, like that doesn't feel good to play.
Yeah.
It's more realistic, but like it's kind of miserable. So I stopped playing that. I played the tutorial and like tried a regular world of it, and it was like it was too overwhelming, and I wasn't ready to jump into it at that time. I played What Remains of Edith Finch.
Did you play through the whole thing?
Yes.
Nice.
I think that game that game is worse than the sum of its parts. I think individually, all of the stories are poignant. I think they're effective and they're creatively told, but I don't think they're tied together that well.
Okay.
And I don't like what they did with the main character at the end.
Yeah.
But I did have this really crazy moment. I was playing it for an hour, and then I looked down. I was like, maybe I can see my character model. And I looked down. I'm like, oh, she's pregnant. And then, like, a couple minutes later, I was walking through an area, and she started talking about her pregnancy. So that was, like, a cool, like, I noticed it before the game told me about it.
Sure.
So that was a cool moment. But I feel like that's what that game is. It's a lot of cool moments that don't necessarily come together all that well.
I see your point on that. I mean, there were certainly some vignettes that were more effective than others, but on the whole, I really liked all of them for different reasons. But the greater kind of narrative of her revisiting this place and figuring out why people from her family die, that never really becomes satisfying. That answer never really happens in a way that feels like you just justified the previous, several hours playing the game. So yeah, I can definitely see that. For me though, like those vignettes, especially the ones that kind of stand out in my memory the most, like the cannery sequence, obviously, and the tie-in to Unfinished Swan with the black and white with the paintballs and that kind of thing, and the one that I really liked too of the kid on the swing, like that was a really short one, and like you knew it was going to happen right away, but just actually physically being the person in control of that happening, I just thought a lot of those were really like phenomenal gaming experiences. And
I
like
would say
one of those things where
the most disturbing one was the baby in the bathtub.
Yeah, man.
I was
bonkers.
I was sitting in the bathtub, and then the mom walked away, and I was like, "They're gonna make me kill the baby."
Yes. But that was also really fun. Like having the jumping, characters and like all the colors and stuff.
And I felt bad about how fun it was.
Yes, that was brutal.
Yeah,
it's a fascinating game. I definitely, as a whole experience, I enjoyed Unfinished Swan more because it had more of a narrative, and I really liked how they altered the gameplay in that game, and it kind of built upon itself. Yeah. Versus this, where it's like a bunch of different ideas that don't really connect. But there are a lot of pieces that, like a lot of things about about this game, Remains of Edith Finch, that's the freaking name of it. A lot of things about the game that I'm going to remember for a while.
Yeah,
especially
me too.
That cannery sequence. That was one of the most affecting like sequences in a game I've played in years.
Yeah, that was something else. I wish I hadn't heard about it beforehand.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, I think every one of those little vignettes has kind of an important takeaway. And they're very effective, but I'm not super satisfied with the way it wraps up. I played Kingsway on PC, which...
So what is that game?
It loads up like it's an old like Windows 95 OS, and it's an RPG that you play, but the whole OS is utilized. Like there's icons on the desktop to open like your inventory and your map and your quest log and stuff like that. And then during combat, it's like a pop-up window, and you have all the controls. And sometimes, like to make it harder, the windows are moving, so you have to like trying to click on stuff as they're moving. And
that's neat.
It's this like active time battle thing where you have a gauge that goes up, and the enemy does too. So it was really neat, and I was enjoying it. And then I died, and it was a permadeath game, and I didn't know it.
Wow.
And there's no way to save. So I was playing it for about an hour.
So you stopped playing it.
Yeah, I uninstalled it. So
that sucks.
So watch out. Kingsway is a permadeath game.
Oh man, that's brutal.
Yep.
I'm not a fan of that genre. I don't and even games that are specifically designed for you to learn, like the whole roguelite
I don't
genre.
Like
I just don't enjoy those types of games.
I like to
I don't want to
like
start over.
Progress.
Yeah.
I bought Miscreated, which is another like post-apocalyptic zombie survival build a base do some cool stuff with some friends thing. I did not know at the time there was no way to play it single player. Like, you can't even host your own server. They have a website you go to that you have to purchase a server or play on one of their public ones. So I returned it.
Jeez. Sounds like you need to look into these games a little more before you buy them impulsively.
Well, it was Steam sale, so I was just buying everything.
All right.
And it was only $10, and I got it back, so whatever. And Unturned has added the ability to craft skins. So like that's the loot thing from Unturned is you play the game and then you get a drop. It could be a loot box with a random drop or one of the basic drops you just get. And so I had a lot of duplicates of the basic stuff that on Steam, like I was selling a lot of them, but I had like 30 of them that would not sell because they're so common. Everyone has them and they're selling for 3 cents, which means I would get a penny for each one.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad they added this. Now you can scrap any skin for crafting materials and you pump certain crafting materials into generating a random drop for you. So I did it once and got something not great. So I'm going to wait and see if they tweak that or change it because I scrapped like 26 things and half of those, 13 of them, went into making something that was not super great. So
it wasn't worthwhile.
It was
like
not.
the new system wasn't worth it.
It was a skin I didn't have, so I will say that at least was good, but it was not like a rare or whatever like it said it should be. So I'm gonna wait on that. Stuff I've been watching.
Well, let me talk about. I have some other video games to talk about.
Okay,
first.
yeah, you wrap up your video games.
You're just gonna talk for like the next 2 hours? Jeez,
it's the Kyle Talks Everything podcast.
The Kyle Talks Everything. Yeah. So I played in my like mad dash to play as many 2017 games as possible. I realized I had a game called Forma.8 or Forma.8. I don't know how you say the name of it, but I got it free on PS Plus. And it came out in 2017, so I was like, okay, I'll try this. It's basically, it's like a side-scroller kind of... it's not a platformer. Like, you basically control this robot head that sort of flies around, and there are walls and enemies. It's fairly straightforward.
Okay.
There's a little bit of, like, small amounts of puzzle solving, but it's mostly combat. The kind of trick is that it's low gravity, and you have, like, a jet, so... when you stop moving, the character keeps moving.
Okay,
that
sure.
like inertia or whatever, momentum, I guess. And I hate that
Me
system.
too.
So I played it for maybe like 40 minutes, maybe an hour, just because I was like, all right, I'm not super into this right now, but I want to give it like a full chance. I'm playing it for no reason. Might as well put a little bit of time into it. And I don't know. I kept dying because I'm not good at, because there are some like tight corridors you have to go through where there's enemies shooting at you, and it's just hard to control. And I'm sure there's a trick to it of figuring out when to use your boost and that sort of stuff. And I don't know, I just wasn't having fun, so I uninstalled it.
There you go.
I've been playing some more Mario Kart. Yes, exactly. I've been playing some more Mario Kart 8 on Switch. So initially we got it so that Kelly and I could play it together, and we've done that a fair amount. I'm also playing it more in handheld mode, just like if it's a Saturday afternoon, and like a couple days ago, I wasn't feeling super well, and it was in the evening. Kelly wasn't home, and I was kind of bored. There was nothing I really wanted to do, and I just wanted to kill an hour. So I'm like, let me put a couple episodes of The Office on Netflix on TV, and I'll play some Mario Kart handheld and just do that. And it was so fucking relaxing. And granted, I was playing in 50cc, which is probably why it was relaxing. But it's just a really nice way to play that game.
It's good in handheld mode.
Yes, so
Switch
I'm really enjoying that, and we played a lot, the two of us, and I brought it over for Christmas to her families, and so we kind of traded off and went through that. And now that I'm playing it more single player, I'm kind of going through all of the matches to get the 3 stars in every one. So I have them all in the 50cc, I have them all in the 100cc, and I have a couple in the 150, and then a couple in the 200 already from playing multiplayer. So I will slowly check off all the 3-star ratings, which that game is, it's just Mario Kart, but that game's such fucking bullshit. I love Mario Kart, but I also fucking hate Mario Kart. Blue shells. I maintain blue shells are top 5 worst game mechanics of all time.
Yeah.
Worst consumables ever. Because it doesn't help the person that uses it. That's what a consumable should do. It should help you do better. And it doesn't do that. All it does is punish the person in first place. It's so fucking dumb. I could make blue shells my hate of the week.
It's a sore loser item.
Yes. It's I remember I would be playing with Kelly and she did a lot better, and I think there was actually one map where she beat me, and only one out of like the 150 we've done. But there were several in the beginning where like she was closer to the last place, and she would get a couple blue shells, and so she would use it and then just look at me because I didn't know like when she had used it, and so she'd use it and just look at me and be like, "I'm sorry," and that's when I knew that there was a blue shell coming. Oh, I hate blue shells. So that's been fun, just as like a time waster. Like that sounds derogatory, but it kind of is that like time waster kind of relaxation game.
Yeah.
I played the Star Wars Battlefront 2 single player campaign. So
I'm going to assume by the way you said that sentence, I have an idea of how you felt about it.
So, all right. So for context, obviously I did not want to support EA's business practices with this game, which is one of the reasons I didn't get it for you for Christmas. I was like, if you want to play it, you can buy it. I just don't want to give them my money. But I wanted to play the single player because it's Star Wars. I fucking love Star Wars. And I knew I didn't want to touch the multiplayer. And so I bought it used from GameStop and beat the single player in a couple of days and then returned it. So I didn't pay to play it.
There you
go. Delete this episode so that the FBI doesn't come after me. But that's their return policy. Yeah. It's not my fault. So I played through the single player. I did not touch the multiplayer at all. Afterwards, I was kind of like, maybe I should have tried it out just so I could talk about it. But the other part of me was like, no, fuck that game. No. And I knew I wasn't going to like it anyway. I just don't like competitive multiplayer shooters, period. So whatever. But the single player, it's not terrible. Like, it's not terrible. It's fine. There are some sequences that are fun. And it kind of just goes back and forth of like you're on foot, then space battle, then on foot, then space battle. And that gets pretty boring after a certain amount of time because the space battles, most of them just aren't that interesting. It's just like the big scale battles, which look great. And it's so cool to see all the starfighters and the big ships and everything. But you're not really interacting with them in very unique ways. It's like kill these 6 TIE fighters, then kill this big ship.
So it's not like the original Battlefront 2 where like the big ships are the thing you need to chip away at over time, and like there are multiple ways to go about that.
There are a couple sequences where you're taking down larger ships like over a period of time, but you're not really doing like it all boils down to shoot where this objective marker is.
Okay.
Like there's nothing really interesting that you're doing in the space battles. The on foot stuff, that's more fun because like I mean it's a dice shooter, like it feels good to play and the guns feel good. There weren't really any guns that I loved though, like the way that they fire and the zoom, and there weren't any guns where I was like I love using this weapon. Okay. But on the whole, like it's still a fun shooter to play, like the mechanics work, and it certainly looks great. The story, which I don't know if you've seen, a lot of people have been talking about it, like they pitch it as like, hey, it's this chick from the League. I don't know the actress's name, but it's her. And like, this is her story of working with the Empire and then joining the rebellion. And that certainly happens, but you only play as her in like half the missions.
That's kind of
crazy. Other times, like, yeah, like you play as Luke in a level, you play as Leia in a level, you play as Han and Lando in levels. And it's just like I get it, it's Star Wars, but just like with Battlefield 1, where the single player felt like we're teaching you the mechanics of multiplayer, that's how this feels. So like, yes, you play as this main character occasionally, but the focus seems to be more on let's teach you how to use the hero characters for the multiplayer. And that's just like such an it's not worth your time. There's just nothing really special about the single player. It's just very average at best at all times. It's incredibly linear. Like they're these big open spaces that you can't really move around in because it tells you to get back to the map. It's just, I don't know. It seems like completely underutilized in every single way. And I don't know, man. I'm just kind of, at this point, I'm just kind of done with EA, just in general. Like, I look at Anthem, which is like the big EA game that's supposed to come out next year, and I have zero positive expectations for it.
EA had a bad fucking year, man.
Yeah. And it's not even just the loot boxes and the broken matchmaking in like their business side. It's purely how they look at publishing and developing games. What they want their developers and their teams to do and the things they want them to focus on. It is purely monetary. It's not, let's create a good experience so that players will want to buy it, want to tell their friends. It's how can we possibly nickel and dime people? And the games are designed that way. Like my example about the single player is like a tutorial for the multiplayer, because the multiplayer is where they're going to get their money. They don't give a fuck about creating a good single player experience because they don't want you to spend time in the single player. They want you to spend time in the multiplayer so that you feel obligated to buy their fucking loot boxes.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating because I remember when a couple of years ago when LucasArts closed and EA got the exclusive publishing rights to Star Wars games, where I was like, I'm not a huge fan of EA, but they have a lot of talented studios, a lot of big AAA games. Like, this is a cool move potentially. And now I could not be more bummed about the fact that EA is the only publisher for Star Wars games right now, because they're clearly not going to make the most of the license because they canceled that single player game. And there are plenty of behind the scenes stuff of like, it seemed like that game was not coming together due to a lot of circumstances inside and outside of Visceral's control. But like, they're not making single player games anymore. At least that seems to be the narrative. And so, like, what are we... Respawn is working on a Star Wars game. But what the fuck is that going to be? Another multiplayer shooter? Like, come on, man. It's just... I just have very little interest in the Star Wars games that are being made right now, which makes me more sad than I can possibly say. Because I love Star Wars so fucking... There's so much you can do with the Star Wars universe. And they just, like... It's like, let me give them the greatest hits. You can play as all your favorite characters in a bunch of meaningless rebellion battles. Yeah, we added space battles, and they're not fucking interesting at all. But hey, we did it like we said we were gonna. It's just, I don't know, man. It's such a bummer.
Yeah.
Cannot recommend it. I
feel like Battlefront 2 is kind of emblematic of Rian Johnson's directing philosophy, which is, hey, you guys wanted something? Fucking take that.
Here it is.
Here.
Yeah, fine.
Gave it to
Shut
you.
up. Stop complaining.
Single player. There, you got it. Congratulations.
It was definitely a bummer. I mean, there were like, I had some fun. It's just I can't think of a single moment where I was like, this is awesome. And in a Star Wars game, that should be pretty fucking easy to do.
Yeah.
In my humble opinion.
That's a bummer.
Yeah. Finally, I beat Super Mario Odyssey. So I fucking raced through that damn game. That was all I was playing for like 2.5 weeks. It's a very good video game. I have the same problems with it that I've had with basically all of the 3D Mario games, in that the camera is an issue, and using Mario's shadow as how you know where he's going to land, I think is more frustrating than it works. But I loved most of the worlds. The stuff that they do with Cappy, the hat that you throw, the way you use that to traverse the worlds, interact with things, possess all these other creatures. I thought the whole possession thing would feel a bit gimmicky, and I wasn't really looking forward to that. That was one of the reasons why I wasn't as excited about Mario Odyssey when they first announced it. I fucking loved that shit. They proved me wrong in a million different ways. It's just really fun to inhabit these other characters that have different sort of movement mechanics and the way they interact with things. It's just really inventive. It feels fresh. And there were so many moments of like, this is just fun Mario shit. And that like fills me with that childhood joy that a lot of new games just can't have because they don't have that nostalgia attached to them. But yeah, it's just a really solid 3D Mario game. And that's honestly kind of underselling it, because I think it rises above that. To me, I mean, Super Mario Galaxy, the first one, is one of my favorite games of all time. I liked the second one less just because it was somewhat more of the same, just adding Yoshi. This, I don't think, reaches the heights of Super Mario Galaxy in terms of imaginative ways of using their new mechanics, but it's definitely like one of the best Mario games I've played in a really long time. So if you have a Switch, there's really no reason not to play it. And I know, Kyle, you were with me in not being as excited about this one, but I still think that you would really enjoy it if you put some time into it.
Yeah, I just feel like I've seen enough of it that I don't need to engage with it, especially like with all the other things I still need to play.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
I do really like too in it the going back and forth between the 2D and the 3D. There are like a lot more of the 2D levels than I would have thought, and they're all really fun. There was one of them that's super frustrating that I just decided to quit on, but yeah, there's just a lot of stuff to do, a lot of little hidden things because you're getting these moons. And when I was about to beat the game, I had like 260, 270 moons. And I was like, this feels like a lot of fucking moons. Because I know in Super Mario Galaxy, there were 242 stars total.
Okay.
And that was all of them. And that's still one of my greatest gaming feats, was getting all of the stars in Super Mario Galaxy. And so I had like 270 moons. I was like, this has got to be a lot of fucking moons. I've done a lot of these. And I beat the game, and then I looked online to see how many moons there are. And it's a bit of a tricky thing because you can buy moons for coins. So it's like there is effectively an infinite amount, but the amount that you can really earn, there's like 900 moons. And I was like, well, I feel way less impressive that I have like 300 now. So just because of the amount of things I still have to play, I probably won't put a ton of time into like the post game because it unlocks new areas on each planet.
I've heard the post game is the best content in the game.
Yes. And I've played a little bit of it. And so like after you beat the game, you unlock the Mushroom Kingdom, kind of Princess Peach's castle. So I've done a lot of the stuff there, and that's where Yoshi is. So that you have a couple little Yoshi levels and that kind of thing. And all that's been super fun, but just the amount of things I still have yet to play, I can't put another 15 hours into Mario right now.
Right.
So I'm going to wait, play some other stuff, and then I'll come back to it and really enjoy that post game. And I am really looking forward to it. I don't know that I will continue to engage with like the uber hard stuff the way I did in some previous Mario games, just because there are so many things I want to play. I've played a couple little mini levels where I've like died 5 or 6 times, and it's been frustrating. And so I'm like, I'm not going to do this one. So maybe I'll come back to those, maybe not. But it's a pretty fucking good Mario game, that's for sure.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth on whether or not I want to actually play it. I mean, I have it. I own it. So I feel like maybe I should at some point, but...
I mean, you certainly, like, you don't need to rush playing it.
Right.
You can play stuff whenever you want, and I'm saying that just as much to myself as I am to you. But I think that saying, like, if you watch the Giant Bomb Quick Look and you've seen videos and heard people talking about it, saying that, like, hearing enough of that makes me feel like you're not super excited, I still think you should play it, because it is really, really phenomenal.
Okay. All right.
And maybe you won't get anything out of it, but it is tough up front. The Cappy stuff I didn't like as much, like for the first couple hours, until you really get used to the different controls and what you can do with it. That's once those things start to click is when the game takes off. Okay. You really need to get past the first world that you visit is like a desert world that's been frozen over, and that whole world I was less in love with. But once I beat that one and moved on to the next one, that's when stuff started coming together.
Okay. Cool.
So what about now you can finally talk about the shows you've been watching.
Okay. I watched all of Godless, Series 1 on Netflix.
Man, people keep telling me about it.
It was
I
very
need to watch
good.
it.
It was
we need to watch it.
Shockingly good.
I've heard that it's really, really amazing.
Yeah. Jeff Daniels does ace. That's a holy hell. He does some stuff in that.
Nice.
I was very shocked. Because I mean, it's just been a long time since I saw Jeff Daniels do anything besides Full House.
Sure. So, well, no,
not Full House.
Dumb and Dumber.
Thank you, Dumb and Dumber. Why was I was because there's a. Who is the guy in Full House who looks like Jeff Daniels?
Yeah, the blonde uncle. Yeah. I don't remember the actor's name, but yeah.
Right, but yeah, he kind of looks like Jeff Daniels. I watched seasons 1 and 2 of Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Okay.
I think I like it. It's a bad show, but it's bad in a reverent B-movie kind of way
Sure.
Like
that's
Bruce Campbell's, the
like
Evil Dead.
The Evil Dead movies. Yeah.
It feels very faithful, like faithfully shot, and there's a lot of fan service in it, of course.
That's
it's
fun.
like all fan service. And the characters are okay. They're okay. So I hope they come back for season 3. I think they are. So yeah, I enjoyed that. Kara and I are... actually, no, we finished season 4 of BoJack Horseman last night. And that actually kind of had a large twist on a character within the last episode. That was actually kind of huge. Really, really impactful end to season 4. And she and I started watching season 2 of The Travelers, which is the time travel show.
Right.
So the weird thing is, like, there are at least 2 characters from Travelers who are also in the show Continuum, which is another time travel show.
Weird.
So yeah, and like, they're not well, they are kind of character actors, but if they are, they're having them do the same characters.
That's even weirder.
Yeah. So
are these both sci-fi shows?
I don't know.
Because that would make a little more sense if, like, the network really likes these actors, that kind of thing.
All right, Continuum series. That was on Showcase. What is Showcase?
I don't know. I've never heard of that network.
Oh, boy.
It's not Showtime? I can't imagine it was on Showtime.
It says Showcase in the picture.
Is it a British show?
No.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Where do you see on IMDb the network?
I don't think it shows on IMDb.
Bummer. Well, yeah. Anyways, I have no idea. But it's like they're kind of ancillary characters.
That's crazy.
It's just really weird.
Maybe
really
it's just typecasting. Yeah.
It maybe. I don't know. But it's kind of thrown me for a bit of a loop.
Yeah,
it's
sure.
Like they're playing them they're different characters. They're playing them the exact same way. I'm like, I guess this is all you guys can do, or all they let you do. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a weird one. But yeah, I think Travelers is a fun one of those, because there are plenty of those around. It's a fun one of those. So
you have a higher tolerance for those types of shows.
I have a pretty high tolerance. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of all I've watched. I haven't really seen any movies since the last episode.
Yeah, I'm still on the, like, trying to watch as many movies as I can train. Funnily enough, because, like, this coming week is my last week at my current job before I start my new one.
Okay.
And so for the past couple of weeks, I haven't had as much work, because before, I was one of my primary roles was for writing. And so there were 2 writers on our team. The other writer left shortly after we were told about office closure, and so then it was just me for a bit, and they quickly brought on another writer, so there was me and kind of a new guy. Since then, they've brought on 2 other writers, so now there are 4 of us, with them 3 being the ones that will move forward. And so, like, I have a couple projects that I'm working on, but most of what I'm doing is helping them learn kind of our style, and not so much training, because they're all good writers, but, like, helping them learn the company and our products, that sort of thing. Yeah. So I'm doing a lot of editing, a lot of, like, calls and that kind of thing to help teach them stuff. But I don't have a ton of work anymore. And so at lunch yesterday, I went through, and because I was a little bored, and so I went through, because normally, like, I'll go down and get something from the cafe and work through lunch. Definitely don't need to do that anymore.
Right.
So during lunch, I went through my whole list of movies I want to see, and I found out that before I feel good about posting a, like, top 10 movies of 2017, there are 33 movies I want to watch.
Oh man.
And I made a commitment that I want on my, like, website posting schedule, that I want to post that top 10 movies first week of February. I'm not going to watch 33 movies in February.
No.
So I've gone through and tried to, like, clamp down a little bit more on what movies to watch, but it's still going to be an unattainable amount. But anyway, that's why I've been watching a lot of movies. So the past 2 weeks, I saw the Kingsman: The Golden Circle, which is the sequel to Kingsman: Secret Service. The first one, like, I had a fun time with it. It's certainly not a great movie. It's very dumb.
Yeah.
I mean, it's based on the comic book. It's super over the top, but it was a fun ride. Kelly fucking hated that movie. Like if I bring it up, she gets a scowl on her face. She hated it so much. So she wasn't super interested in watching the sequel with me. So I watched that myself. Similar feelings. I thought this one was a better movie than the first, just in general. It just kind of escalates the things the first movie did well and does them better. But so yeah, I mean, it was fun. It's not a particularly amazing movie, but it is a really good time.
Were the fight sequences still really good? Because I remember that's what stood out to me in the first movie, where like the fight choreography was awesome.
It's Matthew Vaughn, like the way that he shoots action like that, because he did like the Kick-Ass movies, that sort of thing. That's kind of his shtick. He's really good at doing that. Similarly to that auteur ship, we watched Baby Driver, which is the most recent. Oh shit, Edgar Wright. Oh, I've lost his name. Most recent Edgar Wright movies. Who a lot of people know him from the Cornetto trilogy, Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead, and End of the World, I guess. Those three movies, the Cornetto trilogy. So this is his new one. It was cool because it was shot and takes place in Atlanta. So they reference a lot of Atlanta stuff, which was just like a little fun thing. But, I mean, it's about a getaway driver who's like a teenage guy, and he's in trouble with like a mob boss, which is why he has to do the getaway drive. And so he meets a girl. They're trying to escape. Like, that's kind of the whole plot. And it's just a really well shot movie. A lot of really fun car chase sequences and action-y bits. But it's mostly like the witty Edgar Wright writing combined with his unique, quick cut sort of cinematography.
Yeah.
It was just a really it was an awesome movie. Like this, it will be on my top 10 list probably.
Nice.
Whenever I put it together. So I wasn't like surprised because I had heard good things, but I was surprised with how great I thought it was, because it seemed just like a fun action movie like Kingsman, and it really kind of raised to the next level in terms of filmmaking stuff.
Yeah,
so,
I mean he has like kind of a hallmark or trademark style.
For sure.
It kind of sets his pieces apart. I think I really enjoy his movies.
Yeah. And I was bored, and I was at the Redbox and decided to get Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets, which was torn apart by critics. So this is Luc Besson, who did Fifth Element and Lucy. So he's another one of those guys that like he has this great visual style and maybe overreaches a little bit. Honestly, I didn't hate the movie as much as I thought I would. So the problem is the two leads, which is a fairly significant
seems
problem.
Like that would be the problem from all the trailers.
So that was certainly a bummer. Just neither of them do a good job, and it sucks because Dane DeHaan, he kind of came on the scene from that indie film Chronicle, which is like an indie superhero style movie where he played one of these guys who gets superpowers and then he becomes the villain, and he was phenomenal in that movie. Like, way better acting than you would expect in an indie superhero movie.
Sure.
And so I was excited for him to kind of get more work. Since then, I've only seen him in a couple things. Like he played Green Goblin in Amazing Spider-Man 2, and he was terrible in that. He is terrible in this. And I don't know that all of it is his fault, because Cara Delevingne, who plays the female lead, is a terrible actor. She is extremely attractive, but man, she is not a good actor. She used to be a model. Shocker. But they just don't have chemistry, and the whole conceit is they're partners as part of like the intergalactic space force, and they're partners, and he's in love with her, and she won't give him the time of the day because he's a womanizer, and that's kind of like the story. And the problem is they set that up in the first fucking scene of the movie of like he proposes to her, and I'm like, I don't know these characters at all. Why do I care about the will they, won't they yet? Don't introduce that yet. Let these guys build and let me learn about them as characters in their relationship, and then teach me this. Because the whole movie, it's him begging her to marry him. And then at the end, she does, because it's a movie. But it was just like, that really turned me off from the get-go, because I didn't find either of them interesting. And they just don't have chemistry together. The line delivery is bad. He, in particular, is very one note.
Okay.
He's going for like a Han Solo cool kind of thing and does not execute it.
Bummer.
But again, as a forgettable action movie, you could do worse because it is stunning visually. The way that they play with color and the CG, a lot of it is really awesome. There were a couple moments where I was like, this doesn't look good, but on the whole, like, it's really, really cool what they do. And they find a lot of fun plot reasons to make cool use of the CG, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I liked it, or I should say, I hated it less than I thought I would. I don't regret watching it. Like, I don't feel like I wasted my time. But I legit feel like with two different leads, this would have been a good, or at least an above average movie, which kind of makes it even more disappointing the way things turned out. And then finally, I saw the Meyerowitz Stories, which is a Netflix movie, Netflix original, I should say. And it was one where I was like, on a Saturday, I have a couple hours to kill. Let me see what 2017 movies are on Netflix. And I saw this one. So this is... okay. It stars Ben Stiller and Adam Sandler.
Oh, boy.
And, it's a serio comedy. So the conceit is it's this family with adult kids, obviously. And it's just kind of like their lives. So it's told in, I guess the full name of the film is like the Meyerowitz Stories, New and Selected, and it's based on a book, I believe. And it feels like a collection of short stories. So they go from character to character and give you some backstory, and then they all kind of intersect at the end. There's a big thing that happens with the father, who I can't remember the actor's name right now, and that's embarrassing. I'm going to try to look it up while I talk about it. But it's kind of a... Dustin Hoffman plays the father.
Okay.
But it's a really good cast. Like Emma Thompson plays Dustin Hoffman's current wife. Elizabeth Marvel is also in it, who I have seen in a ton of stuff recently. So I recognized her from House of Cards. She plays one of the people that Frank Underwood is competing against for the presidency. It doesn't matter. She's a really phenomenal actress who I hadn't seen much of until recently, and I'm glad she's getting more work because she's really fucking good. But it's kind of just like their lives and their family life. And so they all, like, they live in New York City. They're Jewish. The father was a sculptor. He's been divorced a bunch of times. And so, like, Adam Sandler and Ben Stiller are half brothers. So, like, share the same father but different mothers.
Sure.
And, like, they had a really strained relationship growing up because Dustin Hoffman, the character, he found Adam Sandler's character to be a big disappointment. And so, like, he put all of his love on Ben Stiller's character. And then Ben Stiller grows up to not be an artist. He goes into, like, being a lawyer, and he's very successful, but his father doesn't respect what he does. It's a lot of that kind of stuff. Okay. Just, like, real life family drama. And it was just really fucking good. Like, really well written. Dustin Hoffman is phenomenal as the father character. It's such a unique character that he creates. And, like, he's such a shitty person. And I just look at these poor guys. And Elizabeth Marvel, she plays the younger sister, who I would say, like, she kind of gets the short shrift in terms of character development, which was a bummer. I wish that we would have seen more of her backstory. But it just sucks to look at these poor kids and, like, the way that their dad looks at their lives. And, like, Dustin Hoffman straight up tells Adam Sandler, like, you were a disappointment. And it's just like, ugh, it's cringy to watch. And I feel so terrible for them. And the whole theme of, like, how these parents really affect their kids' lives as adults, the careers they choose, how their relationships are. And Ben Stiller, like, despite hating his father for the way he treated him and his siblings, he's doing now the same thing to his son, and his relationship with his wife is strained because his dad has been divorced multiple times. And they just, like, and Adam Sandler obviously hates his dad because his dad didn't love him. But Adam Sandler treats other people the same way his dad treats people. Like, he doesn't respect them. He thinks he's smarter than everyone. It's just like the whole putting a mirror up on family life.
Yeah.
It's a fucking good movie, man. It's really good. There's some interesting choices in cinematography and editing that I felt like were used to highlight the whole, like, short story feel and how it's, like, told through different characters' perspectives. So there are, like, some quick cuts and, like, characters get cut off in the middle of a sentence and then it jumps to another character in another time, which, like, was interesting, but it wasn't consistent enough, so it felt a little disjointed at times, purely from, like, a editing perspective. But Yeah, man. Obviously, a very different movie than the other three that I described, but it's up for a lot of awards, and I'm not surprised why. The acting is really, really awesome.
Adam Sandler.
It's one of those. Yes,
and Ben Stiller.
Yes, when they do serious work, they've done really well in their careers, and this is that. I mean, yeah, I understand your skepticism when I describe a relatively serious movie starring Adam Sandler and Ben Stiller. I get it, but I personally have really liked a lot of the stuff that they've done more on the serious side, and this to me is like on a whole other level. I will not be surprised if this is in talks for Best Picture once the Academy Awards come out.
Wow.
And then some TV stuff that I'm trying to catch up on. So we've been watching a lot of Ultimate Beastmaster Season 2 and Top Chef.
Okay.
Those are, if you know those shows, it's more of that. We just love watching those. We watched Season 4 of Black Mirror, which I have a complicated relationship with Black Mirror. Because there are a couple, like, each season, there are 1 or 2 episodes that, like, blow my mind with how amazing they are. But there are more often than not more episodes that I'm like, that was fucking atrocious. And this season is like that. So there are 6 episodes. There's 1 episode that I would say was really amazing. 3 episodes where I was like, this is good or like okay, and like some stuff I liked but some stuff I didn't love. And then there are 2 episodes that I thought were just terrible. So it's more like, if you have watched Black Mirror, it's more Black Mirror. Obviously, it's a lot of the like how technology might affect us in the future, and dealing a lot with interpersonal relationships with technology and robotics and AI, all that kind of stuff. I always love the concept of each episode. It really varies in quality in terms of execution, but it's such a fascinating show. So
yeah.
Have you ever seen Black Mirror?
I watched the first episode, The Pig.
That's a tough one to start with.
I mean, I enjoyed it. I liked it. I thought it was really good. I for some reason, I feel like to sit down and watch Black Mirror is a commitment. Like
it is,
because like that set the tone for it. So like I know, okay, I have to be willing to sit through not someone, effing a pig again,
right,
but other things that will push boundaries and my comfort zone. So it's a commitment to sit down and watch that I have not made yet.
And I would say most episodes are pretty fucking dark. There are a couple that are like nice. Like the one from this season that I really loved. Like it was a feel good sort of episode. Okay. And there are a couple of those as well. So but you're right. Like you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
And like we could only ever watch one episode at a time because none of them have anything to do with the others. There is a fun episode, the last episode of the season, which has a lot of callbacks to previous episodes, which was really fun. But yeah, I mean, mostly they have nothing to do with each other. And so like because so many of them are so dark, it's hard to watch 2 in one sitting because at the end of it, you just are like exhausted emotionally. Okay. Yeah, like I am terrified for the future. But man, it's such a unique show, and they do so many cool things. Even if the execution isn't always there, I'm always really enthralled by the concept of each episode.
Yeah.
We've also been watching Mr. Robot Season 2, speaking of technology. So we watched the first season like a year ago, and we're blown away by it. It's such a cool fucking show. Do you know Mr. Robot at all?
Not a whole lot about it. One of my buddies really likes it.
So, I mean, it's about, like, hacking, basically, and technology. So it takes place in, like, the quote-unquote real world. But there's a made-up corporation called E-Corp, and all the good guys call it Evil Corp. And, like, they basically run the world, much like corporations in real life. And so the main character, he kind of works with these other people to take them down. Concurrently, his dad kind of reappears in his life. And he like is struggling to remember a lot of stuff from his childhood and that kind of thing. And so his dad is recruiting him to work with this agency to take down the bad guys. And there's a lot of big fucking twists that happen, which I won't spoil in the first season. But it's an awesome concept, awesome execution. The main actor is phenomenal. Rami Malek is his name. And he was nominated for an Emmy for this show in season 1. He like is fucking phenomenal. He has such a unique look. He's Egyptian, and he just has a like interesting face. Like he has big eyes and he's skinny and just I like looking at his face, basically. It's a weird thing to say, but as an actor, I like watching his face.
Sure.
But so we took a really long time between season 1 and season 2, and so we dove into that like last week, and we just had no idea what the fuck was going on because it's a pretty complicated show, especially from like a techie side, stuff that we don't understand, like a lot of vernacular that we don't get, and so it's all about context. And so like as we're watching the first couple episodes of season 2, we look at each other and we're like, I don't know what's happening. I don't remember any of this. And so we're maybe halfway through the second season now, and the story's starting to build a little bit more in terms of like the A plot of what's happening. And so we're getting a little more into it, but it sucks because like I think just waiting so long between seasons 1 and 2 is hurting our enjoyment a bit because we just don't remember stuff.
Right.
So that's been a bit of a bummer, but it's still just a really fascinating show. And then finally, I got back into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So I've been watching season 4, which they just put on Netflix. And that's one of those shows that like you describe these like sci-fi shows that you have a high tolerance for. That's how I feel about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah. Like it's not a good show, but I love it. I fucking love it. The writing is terrible. It's really cheesy. And part of the problem with the show, I think, is it's an hour-long show, and it still has like 22 episodes a season. That's like 18 hours of story per season. That's a lot. So I feel like they just rush through plot lines, or maybe not rush through, but they get through a lot of story in a season. Like on this show, one season of this show would traditionally be like 4 seasons of another drama in terms of the arcs and stuff.
Yeah, it has multiple arcs per season.
Yeah, and so that becomes like kind of exhausting, honestly. Like
if you're watching
there's just so much happening.
If you're watching it in the format that you and I watch it in, which is
binging
it. Yeah, it's
like I watch like 2 episodes a day. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it's just a fun show, and like being a big Marvel fan, and I really like a lot of the characters on the show. I'm invested in them, and so it's just like a fucking fun show to watch. Yeah. I'm at the point. I mean, mild spoilers for seasons 4, which I mean, season 5 is currently airing, so it's not a huge spoiler, but there's a little arc. Have you seen season 4?
I think so.
So there's a little arc where the whole thing is like this season's dealing a lot with AI. So there's an AI character that's created, and it's a robot, so it goes bad because science. And so there's a whole thing where like this scientist has created what he calls the framework, because there is a book. Right. Is this sounding familiar? Okay,
yeah,
so you've seen it.
I talked to you about this when I initially watched it on the podcast. Yes. Yeah.
So there's a book that's like evil, but it also gives you intelligence that you wouldn't otherwise have.
Right.
And because of reading the book, the scientist creates basically a virtual reality where he plugs people in, and you can die in real life and still get to exist in your brain function in the framework. And so I'm at the point in the season now where our main characters go into the framework to try to save some of the other characters who've been kidnapped.
Oh man, it's so weird.
And the universe in the framework, like, it's kind of the opposite. Yeah. Like, it's the dark version of reality where instead of S.H.I.E.L.D. being like the good guys, Hydra wins the war. And so it's like a police state, and there are a lot of parallels to our modern world, which I think are like, I roll my eyes when it happens. Yeah. Just about like militias and how politicians manipulate the government and news, etc. And I'm kind of like, okay, I get it. Come on. I'm not watching this show for its political stance, but like, it's just really cool because it's like a different show. And one thing I really liked, Ward came back.
I know.
So the character from the first season, which I fucking loved, Brett Dalton is the actor that plays him. I fucking loved his character. And then they completely ruined the character by this contrived twist where he was a bad guy all along, even though there was literally no evidence to that. They just made the twist happen. And that was like one of the most frustrating things I can remember watching in a television show in a long time. And just from there, his character was terrible. He was a bad guy, and then like he died, and then he was possessed by this alien thing. It was like they were finding ways to keep the actor on TV.
Yeah.
And so they finally, after season 3, let him die in the end. And so I was like, it sucks because I really like the actor. I really liked the character at first, but I'm okay with him being gone. And so in this framework, one of our main characters who used to date him before she found out he was a bad guy, and then he was still in love with her and she hated him, blah, blah, blah. She wakes up, and it's like in the framework, the whole thing is like if your greatest regret never happened. And so the way that things happened, she's still dating him. And so like she wakes up, she goes out and sees a dude laying in the bed, and like he sits up and it's him. And I was like, oh, fuck, they're bringing it back for this. And, like, you find out because this world is the opposite, instead of him being a pretend good guy working with Hydra, he now was pretending to work with Hydra, but is actually a leader in the Resistance. Right. And I was like, this is fucking awesome.
And his character is so much better. Oh, so much better.
So I'm really, really enjoying the story right now in that framework. Yeah. And I know it'll only be a couple more episodes before they get back to the real world. But, again, like, this is an example of, like, in a normal show, this whole thing with the framework, that would be the
whole season, yeah.
And in this, it's like 6 episodes where they introduce the concept of the framework. They get kidnapped to go into the framework. Other characters go in and save the characters in the framework. They break out and beat the main bad guy. That's like the middle third of the season. It's just crazy how they just like fucking run through all of this story. Yeah. I feel bad for the writers. That has to be stressful to keep coming up with new ideas. But it's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D, the best bad television show. So yeah, it's just a really fun watch. So now, I mean, we're like running real long. Yeah. It's still like there's so many games and TV shows and movies that we're watching, man. It's just like that end of the year, well, I guess beginning of the year push to watch shit,
right.
Do shit.
For sure.
So moving on to news, I guess. Not a ton of like big news, but some things that are pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So I guess just some quick hits up front. So there's a Slenderman movie coming out in May. They released a trailer. I haven't seen the trailer because I don't like horror movies. Did you watch it?
I have not seen the trailer yet, but I did.
I figured you'd be...
a long time ago, I watched it was a YouTube channel that was like uploading vlogs about this guy who was being haunted by Slenderman. And it was like, it was cool. An art piece. It was like an art project that this guy did, and it spanned over years. A few years, and he would like do like blog posts and also release some videos and stuff like that, and it kind of escalated in scale in like a really interesting way. I can't remember the name of it. I'm sure you could find it really easily on Google, but it was really, really interesting. So that's kind of was my first foray into like the Slenderman mythos.
Right, because you played the game.
Yeah, like there are a couple games that I played that really freaked me out.
Right.
The first one more so than the second one. So yeah, I know of Slenderman. I think he's an interesting, myth, and I think people have done some pretty cool things with him. But I think also it's pretty pervasive in pop culture now in a way that kind of
maybe annoying.
Yeah, well, A is annoying, but B strips the impact of like what he does and the information behind him and stuff. So yeah, and there's like a lot of conflicting information out there about the myth because it's so big now that I don't know. I feel like this Slenderman movie is kind of coming in. It's like weird timing too, because I feel like we're on the downswing.
We're on the back end, exactly.
So it's a weird time for the movie to be coming out. But I have not seen the trailer. I need to watch that.
So we also got a new release date for the final season of Game of Thrones, which it's been pushed back to 2019, which obviously sucks for Game of Thrones fans. I will also say it sucks for me because I want that show to be over, and that makes me very sad with how much I loved the early seasons. But after watching last season, I have absolutely zero faith in the current direction of the show. And at this point, like, it's not like I'm not going to watch the final season, but I just want it to be done so that I can stop being disappointed by it, which is I know it's a terrible attitude to have, but that's how I feel. So, I mean, I'm disappointed that it's being pushed back, but not for the right reasons. We also got news that The Last Jedi has already passed $1 billion gross worldwide.
I believe it.
Which, not surprising. It's fucking Star Wars, but that's still like... I mean, the movie came out 2 months ago. It's pretty nuts. No, a month ago. So that's pretty crazy. Some Nintendo news. So similarly in sales, the Switch has now become the fastest selling home console in the history in the U.S.
Right, in the U.S.
It has sold 4.8 million units in a mere 10 months, which passed the previous Nintendo record holder, the Wii, which sold 4 million in the first 10 months.
Yeah.
So... I mean, good on Nintendo for them. I'm very surprised. After the failure of the Wii U, I'm very surprised the Switch has sold this much. I certainly think having games like Mario Odyssey and Zelda helped sell.
Huge.
Looking at next year's slate of games with, like, we're supposed to get a Kirby game. We're going to get that Yoshi game. I know they're working on a new Metroid. I know they're working on a new Pokemon game. I'm sure we'll get, like, a Smash Brothers game at some point. But I can't imagine any of those coming out in 2018.
Right.
I'm curious to see how sales work in 2018. Now that those big games are out, there's not a ton of huge stuff on the horizon, like it's in terms of like system sellers. So we'll see if they can maintain this. I would tend to think maybe not, but great games on the Switch so far, at least first party stuff and really third party stuff. So yeah, and I mean it's cheaper than the other consoles, at least the new versions of the other consoles. So.
Right.
Good for them. I mean, after the failure of the Wii U, everybody was a little nervous for Nintendo.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are a lot of problems with the Switch, the way that it was designed, the hard drive size.
A lot of the network stuff.
The network stuff, friendless stuff, the visual fidelity stuff. It just doesn't look as good because of its inherent design.
Yeah, but I think the versatility of it resonates with a lot of people. You know,
I agree.
People want things that do a lot of different things. They want the all-in-one stuff. And I forget what website it was, but they declared it one of the top 5 selling technology items from 2017. Is top 5 just like tech items that sold, period, in terms of units shipped, so or our units sold.
Cool.
So yeah, that's awesome for them. I didn't realize the Wii sold 4 million in the first 10 months. That's crazy.
I mean that console sold like friggin' because it was the holiday thing.
Right.
Everybody bought a Wii because everybody else was buying a Wii, and then it went on the fucking shelf.
Yeah.
After a month of playing Wii Sports, it went on the fucking shelf. Like the software sales for that system were not good after the first couple of years.
Right.
And a lot of that's because of all the shovelware garbage that they allowed to be released too.
It's like looking at the Steam library, but on a GameStop shelf.
Yep. Yeah. So software sales were very disappointing for the Wii, considering the number of units sold. That has been very different for the Switch, I would imagine, because people are a lot more engaged with that system. Fewer like casual families buying a Switch, I would imagine, than bought a Wii.
Probably, yeah.
Something that might help their sales numbers in 2018. The pink and green Joy-Cons are coming to the U.S. So these have been available in Japan. In the U.S., you can only get them as part of the Splatoon 2 bundle, but you can now buy them separately, which is fun. I really like those colors. They're more exciting to me than the red and the blue. I still like the gray. That's the one I got, but I would consider getting these for Kelly because I think she would think the colors are cute too. But they're fucking $80.
Yeah, of course they are.
So no, I'm not buying. No, no, $80. Come on, man, it's absurd. It seems so weird that they're bringing these. It seems weird that they didn't bring them in the first place and now they are. I don't know. Seems odd, but cool. So how about you tell me about the Uncharted business?
Yeah.
There's been a kind of a mass exodus from Naughty Dog the past couple of years, which is a little scary.
It is.
And there's another example of that.
So Sean Eskay has left Naughty Dog. He was the creative director and writer there, and he's been there since the beginning.
For Lost Legacy.
Yes, for Lost Legacy, he was creative director and writer. But he's been at Naughty Dog since the beginning of the development cycle for The Last of Us. So he has departed Naughty Dog, and on his Twitter, he posted the Avengers logo. So people think that he's probably joining Crystal Dynamics, who made the new Tomb Raider games, because they have an untitled Avengers game. So people think he's hopping over to help them out with their Avengers game. Which, I mean, I thought...
certainly wouldn't be surprising.
Right. I thought, Lost Legacy was directed and written very well. So, so if we get someone of that pedigree or, track record onto a kind of pop culture phenomenon title like an Avengers game... I think that's probably a good thing. I would hope, maybe, hopefully.
And I would be more worried for Naughty Dog because after Amy Hennig left, I was scared because she was she produced and wrote the first 3 Uncharted games, which were all awesome.
Like very much the face of that development.
Yeah, and so when she left, I was nervous, but it's part of the reason she left is because Bruce Straley and Neil Druckmann, who directed The Last of Us, were taking over more. And so they directed Uncharted 4, which I also thought was phenomenal. Yeah. It was maybe a slower game than I wanted out of Uncharted, especially in the early chapters. It was pretty slow, which seems to be their style. Like, they're a lot more about the characters and building and that kind of thing.
Clear
like
from The Last of Us.
Yeah, exactly. And like that's fine. There's certainly a place for that. It's interesting now that the guy who took over for Lost Legacy, which initially was thought was going to be just a small piece of DLC, it seemed like, not that it was going to be bad, but it was a bit of a throwaway. Like, it's just, add-on DLC for Uncharted 4. And it certainly was a lot more than that. I mean, it's one of my favorite games from last year. As long as Bruce and Neil are still at Naughty Dog, I'll feel good. Yeah. If they leave, then it's like, who's left?
Right.
So, obviously, they're working on Last of Us Part 2 right now. I would hope after that they start something new, which honestly could be a good opportunity for another new face to join the team. Yeah. So we'll see how things shake out, but nothing but confidence for Neil Druckmann and Bruce Straley kind of leading Naughty Dog team.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, so there's some Kinect news, because I know everybody's talking about the Kinect all the time.
Hot button issue.
So basically, this came out, which kind of is the death knell of the Kinect with the Xbox One. So previously, the Xbox One S did not have a port for a Kinect connector. So anybody that bought an S and wanted to use a Kinect had to buy an adapter, which was like $40. And for folks that upgraded from an Xbox One to an Xbox One S, they got a free adapter. They're no longer selling that adapter. So basically, like, the Xbox One S and the Xbox One X do not work with the Kinect. So that's kind of them saying we're not going to be using the Kinect anymore. Can't say I'm surprised. But yeah, it just seems weird, man. Like, it never caught on with the 360. And it seemed weird that they were going to try to do it again with the Xbox One, rather. And just all the messaging around that system was so bad from the get-go. Yeah. It was doomed from the start. So not surprised at all for that to happen. We are potentially getting some Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle DLC in June. There was a leaked Nintendo eShop post saying June 30th release date. And so, like, they said that they're bringing DLC to that game. This could be like a Japan release date, or it could be a placeholder date, but that's kind of like what we have to go from right now. I was surprised to see that they're doing like story DLC for that game.
Yeah.
But I have it, but I haven't played it yet. I never figured like the narrative would be the draw, but they are introducing like a new character in this DLC, that sort of stuff. So that could be cool. I mean, if it does come out in June, I maybe won't have played Mario and Rabbids at that point. So I might be interested in some DLC depending on how I feel about the game.
Yeah, it's also just weird timing. Like, it's been a while.
Yeah,
so,
that's true.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell me let's talk about the Assassin's Creed thing first.
Yeah, so Assassin's Creed has it has a mode where you can kind of fly around and look at stuff that some classrooms have been using to kind of showcase ancient Egyptian life. Kind of talked about this on the previous podcast, I believe. But they're now adding a new mode that's like it's a separate executable, so it could even potentially be sold separately to classrooms. But it's called the Discovery Tour. And if you own Origins, it will be a free edition. It's a new game option from the start menu. You can take these various like historical tours based on a variety of like different aspects of life during like the setting of the game. So the way it is, you pick between like one of 20 character models or something, and you walk around the world. You can hop on a horse. You can fly the eagle around to get like an eagle eye view, and there are points of interest on the map labeled for you. You can fast travel to them or walk there, or ride there rather, and they have like actual guided with like glowing lights from point to point tours of areas with voiceover commentary, like fully narrated presentations, and like even like pictures of like real relics and stuff from existing museums and things will pop up alongside the things you're looking at in the game, to like kind of show the difference between the modeled version and the real version. Yeah, it's like fully narrated photos and images. It's really, really interesting. It's coming sometime.
Yeah,
they said
cool.
early 2018. So it seems like they're really embracing the accuracy of the historical setting that they've crafted.
Yeah, and the education side.
Right.
That's cool.
Which is really neat. I like anytime a game tries to serve a purpose other than entertainment, I think is really interesting, especially in education.
Yeah.
Like, there are, geometry classes that have used Minecraft and problem solving sections. Sometimes I've seen people say like, oh, we played Portal in class today, like working on problem solving, like Portal 2 co-op problem solving kind of stuff. So it's just really interesting when games can serve an entertainment purpose, an entertainment and an education purpose. And so this is like a really neat kind of feather in the cap of the folks over at Ubisoft on this one. I think it's kind of a neat thing. Yeah.
And then finally, so this is very interesting. So I saw the story the other day about there was basically gaming disorder became an official disorder that you could like file for like government reimbursements and for medication and that sort of thing. And so the ESA has come back and pushed back against this. And so I hadn't seen this specific story. So Kyle, you're the one that found this. So I guess like, do you have a little more context for like the origins of this?
Yeah, a little bit. It's like basically the World Health Organization, like out of the blue, decided to add to their ICD-11 filing, which is the internal classification of disease filing,
which basically
it's basically like it's a list of all of the classifications of disorders that people can file for
right. Well,
like,
and diseases and injuries and everything.
Yeah. And so they added a gaming disorder classification to it. Now people have been talking about that a bit online and kind of like, what are the potential scenarios if this were to actually be approved and go through in their final version of the ICD-11. So the ESA, the Entertainment Software Association, the people who lord over like all entertainment software, like all games, some, I believe, film, and I believe they have their fingers and toes in some film and television stuff too, I think.
I don't know, but it's possible.
But they released a statement that said they believe that the draft classifying gaming addiction as a diagnosable disorder recklessly trivializes real mental health issues, which they're not incorrect.
Right.
But yeah, so the initial draft had the gaming addiction classification on it, but the official release of that is not due until mid-2018. So there is still time for them to take it off and make adjustments to it.
I was really surprised when I initially saw that they were adding this, like gaming addiction effectively. Right. And I was just like, it just seems odd to me that can be considered an actual disorder. I know that a lot of people are more prone to addiction than others, but I don't know. That seemed weird to me.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if
addiction.
Under their gaming disorder, they include gambling.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible, but this seemed fairly literally tied to video games.
Yeah, that seemed like the direction, but I don't know how wide the umbrella it casts is, or the umbrella it operates under is. So I don't know more specifics beyond that information. It's just like a really weird. It's one of those things that pops up in your news feed one day, and you're like,
right.
Of course, some stupid shit like this would happen, because why wouldn't it?
Yeah. That's kind of how I felt about it,
Some
too.
dude in a suit somewhere, some fat guy eating a hoagie. He's like, well, video games are stupid.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It seems, and granted, it's the World Health Organization. Like, they understand healthcare, but it feels like people that don't get it.
Right.
And it is really easy from kind of an inside this video game community perspective to look at people that are outside of it and say, like, you don't get this. You don't get our thing. especially when a lot of the evidence has come out from the government and politicians and people outside, even like friends and family outside of this community. They don't fucking get it. They don't get video games.
Right.
And so it's easy to look at this scenario and say like, oh, well, they just don't get it. But maybe there's more to meets the eye here.
Because basically what they're saying is like you could declare this on your like you could file for a disability based off of this, which that's bad for everyone.
I agree.
It's bad because people will take advantage of it, so it's a waste of tax dollars, and it's bad because it casts a negative stigma about the gaming community.
Right.
It's bad in both ways. So I don't. It's stupid stuff. I hope they take it off.
So before we get to hate of the week and kind of wrapping this thing up, so I mean I've talked a lot about how I have way too many video games I still need to play before I can do my game of the year kind of thing, and I'm still trying to get that out next month. We'll see what happens. I have too many games to play. But Kyle, you and I have talked a little bit, and I know you like feel good about the stuff you've played this year and your top games. So I kind of wanted to give you an opportunity to walk through your like top 10 list and tell everybody a little bit why you feel the way you feel about particular stuff. And especially because like there are a lot of, when I look at your list, there are a lot of games that are surprising, not because of your tastes, because I think they line up with your tastes, but like looking at the industry and the awards that tend to go out in the industry, I think you have a very interesting list. So I'm curious to hear you talk about it.
Yeah, and so like, I think the difference is this is my list.
Yeah, and absolutely.
Like, I'm not trying to put together a game of the year list for the industry. Right. So like I don't look at things in terms on my list. I'm not looking at things in terms of how it impacts the gaming community or people outside of the gaming community. I'm looking at how it impacts me. Mm-hmm. So I played, it was something like 50 to 60 games or something this year. I don't think very many of them, there are a couple games on here that I don't think should really be in a top 10 list.
Yeah, you don't feel super strong. But.
Right, I don't feel super strongly about maybe the top 3 or the bottom 3. So I'll start from number 10 and work my way up. So number 10 is Persona 5. I know I just spent a bunch of time complaining about it. But like there are still elements that I really enjoy. Yeah. And I put it on here because I've heard that it gets better the later you go, and I'm holding on to that hope. Okay. So that's my number 10 slot. Number 9 is I Expect You to Die. It's a VR game. I talked about it last episode because they added the new the new mission, which that's what kind of prompted me to think about it in more of a game of the year sensibility. And it's another one of those like virtual reality job simulator, you know, the kind of, you are set in place and you're interacting with the things within your reach, but it has some action, like there's some shooting and stuff. The puzzles are really well designed, and I always felt really smart having solved them. And it makes you feel like a secret agent. Like there's a fedora in every level that you can pick up and put on your head, and then you just have like the brim of the fedora in the top view the whole time. And like there's a cigar you put in your mouth, and you puff on the cigar every now and then. It's full of like, it's a lot of fun, and it makes you feel good about what you're doing. And it's a great example of how in VR, even something simple like solving a puzzle, doing it, like physically doing it, like reaching through a 3-dimensional space and doing the actions, even if it's like unplugging something and plugging something back in, it's still like the novelty has not worn off. Sure. So it's just a reminder of that. So that's my number 9. My number 8 is What Remains of Edith Finch. I already talked about that today. Again, those 3 games I just said I don't feel super strongly about. Yeah. But I wanted to kind of give them their credit where I thought it was due, just because I don't feel strongly about, I feel less strongly about all of the other games I played this year.
Yeah, I mean, at least with those three, it sounds like there are elements of them that you did really, really enjoy, even if the whole experience was maybe a little underwhelming.
Right. Like I said, in Persona, like the other world, the combat stuff, like that whole crafting of that area is really fascinating. And maybe it would be less fascinating or surprising if I played another Persona game.
Sure.
Because I'm sure they're just doing the same thing they've done before. But, like, this is my first foray into it, and the game drips with style, so I think it deserves to be recognized for that. My number 7 slot is Super Hot VR, because like that was my first big VR experience, and that's still probably my favorite VR experience I've had. Just like that, like feeling like you're in the Matrix, feeling like you're that action star, like you're invincible.
It's pretty awesome.
It's phenomenal. Number 6 is Get Even. I talked about that on the last episode. The PC kind of B-tier independently developed game published by Bandai Namco. It had a lot of surprising elephants. Shocker. The big twist. The big elephant in the room.
It was literally an elephant. That is a big twist, literally and figuratively.
Yeah. The different elements of the story and how it kind of spans a couple different game genres and subverts your expectations in really clever ways. Number 5 is Prey, because it's the best BioShock game since the first BioShock.
Even better than Infinite?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think Infinite's a good BioShock game. I think it's a fun game, but I don't think it's necessarily a good BioShock game. And I thought BioShock 2 was too much of the same from the first game. But like in terms of environmental storytelling and moving about this station at your own pace, just the sense of discovery was it's all about the minutia in the details. And every room felt like someone had lived there. Every square inch of that game felt real, which is a weird thing to say about a game set on a futuristic space station with aliens and horrible nightmare monsters. And I also, I played on PC. I didn't play on console, so I didn't have any of the control issues that I know some people did initially.
That's what I'm worried about, because I've
heard they patched a lot of that stuff and have fixed some of that. Coming in at number 4 is Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, because I knew I was up for another Uncharted game, but I didn't know that the formula could work so well without Nathan Drake.
Sure.
So that was a big surprise to me. And I thought the big driving around segment, the exploration segment, is kind of a bold move for them. And it changes up a lot of like the moment to moment gameplay that you come to expect from an Uncharted game. And it's such a good vehicle for those conversations, those little character development moments of the developing relationship between Chloe and Nadine, and also like Sam popping in was like a really nice surprise. I was not expecting him to be in it, and I thought the villain in this one is probably the best villain, the most well
like pretty well developed. Surprisingly,
because they've all felt pretty one note before, but he seems to have some more legitimate motivations, and it felt like they were less lazy when they wrote him.
I feel like it says a lot about the games I played last year, as well as how strong this year was in games, because I look at, like, Uncharted 4 was my game of the year last year. I look at Lost Legacy, and I maybe like it more than Uncharted 4.
Yeah,
but maybe. It won't be my game of the year this year. It'll be somewhere around the range that you're in, like 3 to 5.
Yeah.
Which it says a lot for how strong this year was in terms of video games, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. Number 3 is Wolfenstein: New Colossus. That game, I think, good lord, the things it does for linear first-person shooter campaigns in terms of the bar it sets for character development, storytelling, crafting an interesting environment, I think Like it's insane, and it feels great to play. It has some of the best weapons in a first-person shooter I've ever played. Like the shotgun in that game is so good. The shotgun's oh man. I've heard,
and it certainly sounds like it brings the insanity, and the spectacle.
Oh yeah, and like there are moments in that game I will never forget. I will never forget moments that I experienced in that game because it is so wildly insane. And I've heard a lot of complaints about the stealth, because they say, oh, you can play it stealth or you can shoot your way through.
Right.
I played most of the game stealth. Like people are, they're saying, I hear a lot of talk online about, oh, the stealth in this one is really like you kill a couple guys, like you whittle down the enemies, but eventually you're gonna get spotted. Like there's no way to get through areas. I didn't feel that at all. I was stealthing my way mostly through the game, unless like I was in an area where I wanted to, where I didn't want to stealth, and like there were segments where like the music picked up and I could tell like I was supposed to run through this area, pull out the shotguns and have a good time. I think like a lot of that game, it was structured in a surprising way that I was not expecting. And I didn't see any of the story beats coming. Holy crap. There's no way anyone could predict anything that happens in that game.
Sure.
Number 2 is Resident Evil 7. I'm not one of the people who thinks Resident Evil... Well, okay. Resident Evil has lost its way, but I think people have very negative things to say about 5 and 6. I think 5 and 6 are not good Resident Evil games. I think 5 is one of the best co-op games of all time, and I think 6 is a good fan service game, but maybe it doesn't feel that great in the way it controls. Like having the 3 different campaigns in 6 was awesome. It made me feel like I was getting a lot of bang for my buck, and I got it felt like there was something there for everyone. With that, but it also carried a lot of like the over the top, less horror focused, action focused elements of 5, which kind of started leaning that direction with 4, but 4 is probably my favorite game of all time. And Resident Evil 7 felt like such a return to the formula, and then as the beginning half of the game was terrifying, and it was like incredibly well crafted. The mysteries they set up are well developed, and you get satisfying answers to them. And then the second half of the game feels more in line with the action. So again, I feel like there's probably something there for everyone. I thought the game maybe moved too slow because they also developed it for PSVR, and I think they let that affect the pacing of the 2D version of the game.
Right.
So that's probably my biggest knock against it. All of the DLC was awesome.
It sounds varied too.
Yeah,
I know you talked about that last episode too. Like there was more actiony stuff and more character focused stuff.
Yeah, and like the initial DLC they had, like the Lost Episodes or whatever it was called. They're like puzzle solving and other stuff like that. So like all of the DLC felt very separate and like distinct experiences that helped flesh out that main game in kind of meaningful ways. So that's definitely my number 2 because it was really, really freaking good. And then my number 1 is Evil Within 2 because in my mind, Shinji Mikami can do no wrong. And like his games are the only games that as soon as I beat them, I want to immediately start them again. Like these other games, like I beat them and I'm done. I walk away. Maybe I come back to them in a year, 2 years, 3 years. Like Shinji Mikami games, Resident Evil 4, Evil Within 1 and 2. Like as soon as I beat them, I want to play them again immediately. There's no other game like them.
And I think it makes sense that they're coming from him too, because having not played Evil Within 1 or 2, they felt like more of a logical progression from the Resident Evil series than 5, 6, and now 7 have.
Right.
Like 5 and 6, like you said, felt more actiony, and now 7 is more returning to its horror roots, but it seems like a very different kind of game than traditional Resident Evil. Evil Within series feels like what you would expect from the guy who did Resident Evil.
Right.
So I think it totally makes sense that you would like those games a lot.
Yeah. So that's definitely my number one slot. I think the things it does to elevate itself over the first game are incredibly intelligent. The world design is, I mean, I'm not going to come out and say that it's the best looking game in the world, because there are definitely parts of that game that don't look good. But in terms of the design of the world, it's incredible, and it does a lot of really mind-bending stuff. And like the enemy design, upgrading your weapons, like I've grown kind of lazy when I play games lately. Like I kind of blow through stuff. And in Resident Evil 4, Evil Within 1, Evil Within 2, I scour every last square inch of every environment looking for things, and they somehow always strike a balance with me of like I feel prepared but not invincible. Like I always feel like I have enough to handle the situation, but I know one misstep and it's all gone. And there's always that tightrope that I'm walking in those games. Like Resident Evil 4, I booted it up like a week and a half ago on PC. I started on professional. I can't even tell you how many times I played that game. It's got to be like over 30. Right. And I booted it up on professional, and I got my ass handed to me in the first village. Like, that doesn't happen to me anymore. But, like, I made a stupid decision, and I missed a couple shots, and I walked too far away from the gate, so the guy spawned behind me, and that really screwed me over. Like, I made some missteps, and it all went wrong. But I was able to get out of it. I still recovered. And that's what feels good about these games, is, like, I know I can recover from what goes wrong if I'm good enough. And I always feel like the game makes me feel like I'm good enough. Right, that's my top 10 games of the year. I know I don't
look for my top 10 in 6 months.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't played every game.
Right, of course.
And again, I want to reiterate, this is not emblematic of what anyone else's list should look like. This is just for me.
Yeah, it's your list. It should only be your list.
Yeah.
I just think I only brought that up in the beginning because I thought it was interesting how different your list looks from, like, if you look at the big sites like IGN or GameSpot or Game Informer or Giant Bomb, a lot of those lists look fairly similar with some like movement here. And yours, like, there's a lot of stuff on there that you would find on other folks' lists that are not on yours. I just found that interesting.
Yeah.
I will say it sounds like you need to play Mario Odyssey and South Park to knock off some of those bottom feeders off of your top 10.
I know. I feel like South Park would have a slot on here if I'd played it.
Right. And I'm surprised you didn't get more out of Zelda to put it on here. I know you didn't put that much time into it, but
I keep not going back to it. And so listening to Giant Bomb's Game of the Year deliberations, them talking about Zelda has made me want to go back and spend more time with it. So again, maybe that would affect it. But like, I kind of put that thing to rest, and I was done with it until they started talking about it again. Like, I would not have gone back and ever played it ever again.
I feel a little bit the same. Like, I know I want to put more time into it because there's a lot of it that I do like. I love the exploration side, and I enjoy most of the combat. I mean, my frustrations have been well documented with I just get my ass kicked all the time and get killed with one hit by every enemy, and so something must be wrong. But hearing them talk about it and all the cool stuff that you see like later in the game and exploring, I'm like, I want to go see that. I want to go do that. So I will keep putting more time into it. It feels like how you describe some of your bottom games where it slides on there because there are so many things about it that I do love, despite there also being a lot of things that I really don't like. So I'm not sure how Zelda feels on my list right now. It's the game I have the most problem comparing to others because of that. So we'll see what happens. I still have a lot of games that I want to play before I'll feel good about having a top 10.
Yeah.
So I guess looking ahead to 2018, which we should have said at the top, like this is the first episode of 2018. Welcome to the new year. New year, new Shea Hates Everything podcast. Not same shit, different day. Good shit. That's what it is. But we do, like, very briefly, since we're already running long, look ahead at what's coming out in 2018, because you look back at like the games that came out in 2017, how many fucking heavy hitters there were.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how 2018 shakes out, because I got to say right now there are a lot of games with that generic 2018 release date that probably won't hit this year, and there's always the chance that there are one or two big games that we don't even know exist yet that will come out. But looking at the games that are coming out in the first half of the year that have those defined release dates, I look at it and I'm kind of like, ooh, there's not like a whole lot that I want to play, to be honest. Yeah. So I made like a brief list here, and Kyle, I don't know there might be some of these that you're more excited for than me, but the biggest one that stood out was God of War. Obviously, comes out in March. That's definitely my most anticipated game in terms of games I know we're going to hit this year. We also have A Way Out coming next month, which looks like a cool co-op experience. Yeah. Far Cry 5 comes out, I think, in March, which I know you're more excited for than I am.
Yeah, I've seen some early gameplay stuff, and I'm kind of like, I'm maybe tempering my expectations on it more. It just seems like more of the same
to me. Yeah. I don't know. And I still, like, I played 2 hours of Far Cry 4 and just never went back to it, and I still have it. It's still on my list of games that I want to play. So I'm not burnt out on Far Cry because I haven't really been playing it, but it also has never grabbed me the way 3 and 4 seem to grab other people. So I don't know. I'm not planning on buying it right now, I guess is the best way to say it. But It is one of those where, like, if it comes out and people are raving about it, I'll check it out. We have the Shadow of Colossus PS4 HD remaster, which I didn't really care about until recently. So I loved the game when it came out on PS2. I played the remaster on PS3 for a bit and was like, you know what? This game has not aged very well. It was certainly of a time and of a place. I still consider it, one of the best games ever made in that sense. It just has not aged well. The camera especially is really awful. But looking at what they've done graphically to the PS4 version, it looks like a completely new game. So it is one of those where I might want to check it out.
Yeah.
Just because it's so gorgeous, and I remember loving those boss battles and just such a dark and like somber world and story. I might want to relive that.
Yeah, I felt so when I was playing through Zelda, I kind of felt like they were trying to evoke some of the same tone and feelings that Shadow of the Colossus did so perfectly. But they didn't necessarily do it all that well in Zelda, I didn't think. And so a lot of people, they're talking about how great the world design is in Zelda, how beautiful it is. And I'm not going to say it doesn't look good, but I don't think it. I feel like it's very it's a mixed bag, I think, in Zelda a lot. But yeah, anyways,
the age-old criticism. It's a bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah.
So Bayonetta 1 and 2 are coming out. We talked about this last episode that they're bringing it to Switch, so I'll be picking that up.
Yeah.
I'm not going to prioritize it just because I'm not typically a fan of those third-person action games, but just after hearing all the crazy shit that happens in those, I would kind of want to see it for myself.
Yeah, me too.
We Happy Few is coming to PS4. This is a game that I've been looking forward to for like a couple years at this point. So they had the early release PC edition and then the 1.0 on PC, and I heard kind of mixed things about it in terms of the procedurally generated stuff, but I just love, again, talking about Prey as being like a successor to BioShock, this felt similar to me, like a spiritual successor to BioShock in terms of like the world and the narrative. So I really want to check it out when it comes to PS4. You played it on PC, didn't you?
Yeah, I played the early version of it.
Yeah.
It was rife with bugs and the balancing was really bad. And like the generation was just plain up broken in certain spots. So I shelved it.
Presumably that stuff would be fixed.
Hopefully, I would hope so.
Yeah. And then we have Sea of Thieves coming to Xbox One. So obviously I can't play this. I don't own an Xbox, but it felt worthy of making the list. It to me is like the standout Xbox game coming out this year.
Yeah.
Looks awesome. We talked about it last episode. Some of your buddies have been playing it in the closed beta, but seems super fun. I wish that I could play it. I'm not at the point where I want to drop $250 on an Xbox to play it though. We also have Ni no Kuni 2 coming out. It was pushed back to March recently. Still haven't played the first one, but I would want to, and this looks great, but it's hard to play the second game when you haven't played the first when there are so many carryovers. And then finally, in terms of like the harsh release dates, Monster Hunter World is coming out. So this, when they announced it, I was like, who gives a shit? It's Monster Hunter. I mean, the people that like it, good for them, but I have no interest.
Right.
But seeing everybody talking about it and how it kind of changes up the Monster Hunter formula and makes it a little bit more digestible, along with like the open world elements, I'm kind of more interested in it.
Yeah, I'm tentatively. Because like I played that 3DS one, and I bounced off pretty hard. So
yeah, and like looking at the gameplay, I'm still not wowed.
Right.
But just it's more hearing people talk about it and kind of the emergent stuff and just how fun it is to play with other people. That all sounds awesome. But when I watch video, like when I hear people talk about it, I get excited, and then I go watch a video, and then I'm like, maybe not.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm kind of in between. And then there's the whole list of games that are supposed to come out in 2018 that may or may not, but that we don't have release dates for. So we already talked about Anthem a bit. I wouldn't be surprised to see that announced for fall 2018 and then pushed back to 2019. Yeah. We'll see what happens. I hope for the best, expect the worst from that game at this point. Darksiders 3, which we've also talked about, looks really cool. Dreams.
Media Molecule.
Thank you. Media Molecule's new game looks really cool. Jurassic World Evolution, which I think we've talked about, looks like a fun city builder, but set in Jurassic Park. Like that's just like I didn't know I wanted that until it was announced, and now I'm super excited for it. Faye, which is kind of an under the radar game. It's more of an indie game. It reminds me a lot visually of Ori and the Blind Forest. A lot of like darkness mixed with color, where the gameplay seems to be around a lot of like sound and sights kind of thing. And you use like singing and voice pinging and that kind of thing to solve puzzles. It just looks like a really gorgeous kind of indie action platformer sort of game. I'm very interested in that. Metro Exodus is supposedly coming out in the fall this year.
Oh God, I hope
so. The PS4 sale is still happening, and the other day I got the Metro Redux, so I got 2033 and Last Light, both of which I've played last generation, but I got them both for like $9, and I was like, hell yeah, I'll do that. So nice. I will probably want to play through those again before Exodus comes out. Spider-Man supposedly is coming out this year. I would think that that's going to be a fall game. Hopefully, if it does, I know I'm more excited about it than you. In terms of the gameplay, I just have a lot of faith in Insomniac and the way that they put gameplay systems together and kind of their witty writing style. I think is a really good marriage for Spider-Man. Red Dead 2, a lot of people are saying it's going to come out this year.
That'd be great. Oh man,
I don't like, and it's completely selfish, but I hope it doesn't, just because I still haven't played the first game and I would want to, and there's too many other backlog games that I need to play this year, which I know I won't because I say this every year. So I can't play Red Dead 2 until I play the first one. So like selfishly, I don't want it to come out until I have played the first one.
They have an Xbox.
It looks awesome.
They have an Xbox One version of Red Dead, the first one. It's like it's not. I don't think it's remastered at all, but like you can buy it
like
on
upscaled.
the Xbox One. Yeah.
I have it on PS3, so I could play it if I wanted to.
Okay.
I just never do.
Right.
One that I'm really looking forward to is Season 2 for The Wolf Among Us.
Yeah.
So that is, aside from the first season of Walking Dead, Wolf Among Us Season 1 is probably my favorite thing that Telltale has done. So I'm really pumped to see a Season 2. I'm curious to see where they kind of take the story. I will say that due to recent Telltale games, how they rush them out and the writing has not been as strong in recent entries, my expectations are a little tempered just because of that. But I'm hoping that they can continue it in a cool way.
Yeah, that's the one I never played, but I had watched a Let's Play of it like forever ago when it initially released.
You probably should have watched my Let's Play on my YouTube channel, Mighty Manotor 22.
That might have been the one I watched.
We're getting Vampire, which is the new game from Don't Nod, makers of Life is Strange Season 1.
Yeah.
So they're also working on Season 2, and then obviously a different studio, Deck 9, did the Life is Strange Before the Storm miniseries. But this is their new game that they're working on. It's set in like, sort of Renaissance era, not Renaissance, but colonization era times. And it's about vampires and finding a cure. You play a guy who's a vampire, and it looks interesting. It's like a mixture of, like, there's combat obviously and some light RPG mechanics, but also sort of like adventure gamey kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like a lot of conversations and small puzzle solving. It just looks like an interesting game. I really like the concept.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yoshi, we talked about. It's a new Nintendo game that's supposed to come out this year. It's kind of their big release this year. It has some co-op. It has that cutesy sort of cardboard style, like from Yoshi's
Woolly World.
Thank you. And Kirby's Epic Yarn, like that kind of shtick that they do.
Yeah, but cardboard.
And also, right. But you can do like, you can change the perspective from, it's a 2D plane, but there are multiple 2D planes. It's sort of like Little Big Planet.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, where there are multiple levels on the 2D plane. So that seems interesting. I don't know. I've never been a huge Yoshi game person, but just because I own a Switch and I'm going to want stuff to play on the Switch, I'll probably get this, assuming it comes out this year.
Yeah, I'm sure I would too.
And then two that are... I don't think will come out this year, but some people think they will. So there's the Final Fantasy VII Remake, which supposedly the first episode might come out.
Yeah, they kind of teased. They were like, it's going to be a big year for Final Fantasy fans.
Right. We talked about that a while ago, saying 2018 would be a big year for Final Fantasy fans. So there's a chance that the first episode comes out. I don't see it happening with as early as that game is. The one I would say maybe has a more of a chance from Square Enix is Kingdom Hearts 3. So I did a list of like my most my most anticipated games of 2018. It's on SheaHatesEverything.com. I had a lot of these games that like maybe won't come out this year. Kingdom Hearts 3 was not included just because I don't think it will come out this year. But I don't know. Obviously, I would love for it to. We'll see what happens. And then there's a release for a particular game that you have played just a little bit of in your time.
Yeah, 500 hours. Unturned 4.0. It's supposed to come out this year. They just released a new map, Greece, and they're adding content to it throughout this month. Because there are like NPC quests and stuff, but they don't have all the quests in place yet. They're still adding to them, which I don't know why they released the map if it's not finished, but whatever. Maybe they just wanted to get it in time for the holidays. So yeah, that Unturned 4.0, and they're supposed to finish the Greek map and all that stuff. So that's supposed to happen this year.
Your most anticipated release of 2018.
Oh yeah, 4.0 Unturned. I'm excited to pump another 500 hours into it.
Right. So, I mean, like, looking at that list, there's certainly a lot more games that might come out in 2018 that I would be excited about than games that have been officially confirmed. But it is also January. Like, games like May and beyond don't really have firm release dates at this point. So, obviously, that's taking out all those big holiday releases in October, November, December. There's a good chance that at least a large portion of the games I just listed will come out this year, but it's hard to, like, get super excited until you know something's going to come out, you know?
Right, until it's in your hands.
Yeah, that's for sure. So I guess with that, we will move on to Hate of the Week. Hate of the Week. So this one, I don't know. I don't want to spend a ton of time talking about it. It's honestly, after last episode not having a Hate of the Week, I kind of liked. Because I didn't have like an emotional rant about something. But it's the shtick. I know like there are things that I still feel passionate about. But without like, don't need to spend a ton of time on this. But today's Hate of the Week is just the news in general. And a lot of this can be cycled back to the 24-hour news cycle. So whether you're watching political news, local, sports, finance, this notion of you have a million news networks that need stories to fill up literally 24 hours every single day. That comes to like stretching things out, making things bigger than they are, flat out making up stories as you go. Like, I just feel like is really degrading what news is about, which is keeping people informed on the most important things that are affecting their lives. And I feel like news stations really drop the ball on that.
Big time.
Because they have to fill up all that time. And so it's a bunch of these like, puff pieces are fine, some like feel good stories, all that's fine. But like the negative stuff, it's like they're making mountains out of molehills and making you scared so that you watch and not delivering on that. Because long story about this, but news stations didn't used to be privatized. When news first entered television, it was governmentally funded. And so it only existed to bring you the stuff that was important. Now, it's all privatized, so they're just like any other television show on any other network, they get most of their money from advertising. And so that's where you get all these, like Mike Birbiglia has a really great bit because he's addicted to the news. And so he likes to try to compete to figure out if he can figure out the news story. So he'll see like, you know, the little stingers they leave on the news to get you to stick around through the commercials of like, "Pew, do you know what's in your broth?" And he's like, "Oh shit, I don't know. What's in my broth? Is it bad? Like what's in my, I thought it was like just regular broth. What is it?" And they come back, it's like, "Pew, it's broth." He's like, "I should have known. Broth is broth. Duh, that makes sense." Like, that's what the news is. They try to hook you in, and then they don't deliver on the shit that actually matters. They scare you into watching for stuff that you don't need to be scared about. So that's the TV news. Then there's the online publications, the print publications, especially print, which is dying.
Yeah.
And so a lot of this is transferring to online news, and it's the way that people consume media online. And we talked about this before, just this feeling of like, I read it online, therefore it is fact. And so people take that. And it's like, I don't know how stupid you have to be to actually think that way, but apparently there are millions of people that are that stupid. Because people will post like, "Here's an article I read on the Huffington Post about why X and Y." And I'm like, dude, the Huffington Post literally is not a news outlet. It is a blog. It is a blog.
Yeah.
Are they going to bring you facts? Sure. But most of that is filtered through an editorial biased lens. That is on purpose. It is by design. That is what they wanted to do. It's like getting your news from BuzzFeed or frankly from SheaHatesEverything.com. Like it's not a news source.
Right.
It's a blog. And yet people still cite that as like, I read this thing, therefore it is true. It is fact. So I'm constantly looking because for a while I just tried to turn a blind eye because a lot of this stuff doesn't fucking affect me. All it does is negatively impact my mood on a daily basis to read about this shit going on that doesn't really impact my life. And I was like struggling because I'm like, yes, it doesn't really impact my life, but isn't it better to still know what's happening in the world, to know what's happening with the government? And so I'm trying to find these sources where I can get filtered, relatively unbiased news. And so my wife has subscribed for a while to The Skim, which is an email newsletter, basically. And so it's a short thing where they try to make it more digestible. So I subscribe to that, and I read it every morning at work. It's definitely written for women. Like, it's very millennial female in the way that it's written, which, like, annoys me because I'm not a millennial female. I'm not like an 18-year-old girl. But, like, in terms of getting the information, I still felt like it was valuable. But recently, just the bias is coming through. And, like, I don't know, man. It's not... Without going into the political side, like, it's not like I'm a Trump supporter, but I don't need to read 6 articles where you make fun of something stupid Trump said.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean anything. Like, he didn't do anything bad or evil or something to fuck us up. He just said something stupid. And you need to write a whole article about that? Who fucking cares?
Right.
And I felt the same way when Fox News did it when Obama was in office. I felt the same way when they did it when George Bush was in office. Yeah. It's just like undermining the leadership of our country for literally no reason. And it just makes us have less faith in our government. Like, he's still a human being. And again, I'm not trying to defend his politics because what a fucking idiot that guy seems to be. But, like, it's needless. There are so many other more important things that are happening that are fucked up. Like this net neutrality business, all the mass shootings happening across the world, natural disasters, the way the economy is moving in China, and like all like, and then on the positive side, like a lot of the cool stuff that's happening in technology, all the like things with Bitcoin and how fascinating that is. And yet, no, we need to say something fucking stupid Trump said in an email 6 months ago. Like, that's what we need to be talking about. So I fucking unsubscribed from The Skim, and I'm fucking done. I'm back to just putting my hands over my ears. And I hate that attitude, but until I can get a fucking news source that gives me news that matters, I don't want to deal with it anymore. You're nodding your head.
Yeah. Which is great for an audio format.
I was waiting for you to add something, and you're just kind of like...
Writers over at The Skim making fun of Trump. Sad.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's where I am with the news. It's the fucking worst.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Well, it's made by people.
It is valuable.
It's the worst.
It's important to know this shit, and yet they have to deliver it in a way that is their personal opinion on something, which isn't what I fucking want. It's so frustrating. And I go back to several episodes ago, I had started watching The Newsroom. and I quit watching it because I hated it because it was terrible. But that was the whole thing of like that news show. It was the dude, Jeff Daniels, and he was like, my thing is I want to give my take on what's happening. And if that's what you want to do, fine. Say that up front. But do not present yourself as a news source then, because you are not delivering news. You are delivering your opinion on things that happen. That is not news. That is not fact.
Right.
Period. And I'm sick of people blurring that line. Because we just eat it up. We just fucking eat it up. And believe everything we read and everything we see, unless it challenges our viewpoint. If I read something online that confirms a suspicion, then it's a fact. This is true. This happened. But if I read something online that threatens my fragile little worldview, the way that I think things should be, if I read something that challenges that, well, then no, then it's bullshit. And like that, no, you cannot have it both ways. You cannot have it both ways.
If you're listening, Shea has become self-aware, so this is the last episode of the Shea Hates Everything podcast. We need to shut this down now. Code Blue.
Man, it's... Just before this, I was like... pondering maybe getting rid of the Hate of the Week segment because it just frustrates me. And there's nothing I can do about this. There's nothing I can do about it.
Well, it wouldn't be the Hate of the Week otherwise. Otherwise, you'd just be solving it.
That's right. It would no longer be the Shea Hates Everything podcast. So I will continue to fight the good fight and bring you guys the biggest bullshit every episode. So now let's end with some positivity,
yes,
as we always
please.
do. So I will say today, despite everything and my frustrations and lack of time to accomplish the things that I want, today I do not hate video games. There's so many fucking great games out there. I am blessed to have enough finances and time to play as many of them as I do, and I'm very thankful for video games today.
Some would say it's the best time to be playing video games.
Some would say that, yes.
And my name is Kyle, and today I don't hate when new people try theater for the first time.
Yeah,
like
man.
More than half of my cast members for the show had never done theater before, and like seeing them like deep dive into it, get really into it, and come out the other end with like really positive experiences. That's good shit right there.
Yeah, and you're facilitating that.
Yeah.
Like the kind of show that you did, it's like less about people auditioning and getting specific roles and then folks are left out. Like if they want to participate, they can, and you'll make it happen and you'll help them do the best job possible. But I think that that's, you know, especially for high schoolers that are figuring out what they want to do with their lives and who they are as people.
Yeah.
Not that a lot of these kids are going to go be actors,
No,
but I feel like that's a really, the arts are a very
undervalued,
underappreciated, like part of education. And yes, it's not math, it's not science, but it's culture. And I feel like that's really, really important for kids as they're figuring out who they are as people. Giving them that outlet to express themselves is very powerful. So I applaud you for that. That is a great Today I Don't Hate.
Thanks, man.
I also don't hate when people get to do theater for the first time. It's so good.
It's the best. It's so good.
So yeah, there. I feel much better now after
go.
ranting about the news. So as always, this episode and the Shea Hates Everything podcast is a product of SheaHatesEverything.com, which you should check out to read and not just listen to my opinions on some video games, movies, comics, books, and other shit that matters. So thank you for listening, Kyle. As always, thank you for joining me.
You got it.
And we'll be back in the next one. Peace out.